Maverick News presents The Rick Walker Show. Defrag your mind.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Maverick News Channel. Hello, Maverick family, and new viewers from around the world. Welcome back. What is fat? That's one question that's being asked tonight on the beauty side. I don't know if it warrants being our lead story, but it's the first thing that popped in my mind. Probably because it's the last thing I looked at before we came on the air. Short attention span. A sign of the times, perhaps. The federal government in Canada has released its economic statement for this period. We'll tell you about it, and it ain't pretty. Oh, my goodness. The beauty queen that was walking down the runway. Well, that's one thing. The state of our economy, that's something else. Wow. Elon Musk calling for the release of the passenger lists, guest lists from Epstein Island. What else do we have for you tonight? Battlestar Galactica. That's on the thumbnail for tonight's broadcast. Why do I want to talk about Battlestar Galactica? Because it ties into everything. I was never much of a watcher of the most recent version. Of course, I'm a 70s and 80s kid, right? So I remember the original series. But it ties into what we were talking about last night. Flying cars, future cities, digital technology, and fifth generation warfare. So we're going to talk about it. I'm just going to comment a bit on it because there is something to unpack there. Some insight. Because I know that the new version of the series actually deals with a lot of the issues that we are wrestling with right now. The series really, in many ways, had a plot line that drew from the experiences after 9/11 and the impact that that had on the United States in particular and geopolitics globally in general. So I want to just discuss it a bit tonight. And Taylor Swift falling out of favor with the media. Oh, Taylor Swift. It was bound to happen. I'll tell you why. During the course of tonight's transmission. Don't go away. Lots and lots to talk about tonight.
Maverick News presents.
Oops. I hit the wrong thing. You've already seen that one. Let's do this one instead.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, here I am. Let's start with the bad news first. The economy. It ain't looking good. The federal government in Canada has released its fall economic statement, and they are looking, what are we looking at here? We're looking at billions and billions of dollars being thrown around to address a bunch of housing issues, cultural issues, economic issues. Seems the government's solution to everything is to simply print more money and spend, and then tax. Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland, in her fall economic statement, includes billions of dollars in new spending and targeted policy measures, which are aimed at increasing the housing supply over the coming years. And now the deficit for Canada is projected to be $40 billion in fiscal 2023-2024. Now, to our American friends, that might not seem like that much, but you have to understand that Canada is 1/10 the size in terms of population compared to the United States of America. We just don't have the coin. We have resources, but they're not being fully utilized, tapped. And we're, I guess, at least on paper or in theory, a rich nation, but not that rich. All this money printing has resulted in, well, I would say record-setting inflation. And as a result, the government is trying to cool off the economy. The Bank of Canada is trying to cool off the economy by increasing interest rates. That is making it increasingly difficult for people to live, especially in an environment, in a country, in a society where so many people have bought into the idea that in order to live, they need debt. Credit card debt, mortgages, car loans, loans to buy washers and dryers, whatever it might be. And just like our American friends, Canadians do tend to carry a lot of debt. Higher interest rates means it's even more difficult now to survive for many, many people. So this was, about 130 pages or so, this economic statement today. And they're really targeting housing. What they want to do is build a lot more rental housing, government housing, geared to income housing. The federal government alone is coughing up about $15 billion just in like one fiscal year to help facilitate this. Of course, when the government throws money like that around, I really have to wonder ultimately whose pocket it ends up in. When the government gets involved, they always get to pick the winners and the losers when they control the purse strings and, by extension, entire industries and people. When they have control of the funds, the money, the way it flows, they control everything in society. An additional $1 billion is also being set aside for new affordability focused housing over 3 years, starting in 2026. Let this be a warning to our American friends. This, what's happening up in here in Canada in terms of excessive spending, rising interest rates, and out of control inflation, it's already to you guys too, but it may well come home to roost in an even bigger way for you because you have such massive debt and such pressure on the American dollar. And as the US dollar falls, as demand for it falls internationally, and we get deeper and deeper into this new multipolar geopolitical reality where the United States is not just the sole superpower out there, as was the case for a short time after the Cold War. Well, you better get ready because it's going to come home to you guys too in terms of higher grocery prices, higher prices for all kinds of consumer goods and services. Let's pick things up here with Canada's Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister, Chrystia Freeland, as she continues with her address outlining the fall economic statement from Parliament.
Elected on a promise to deliver for the middle class.
Promise.
And our economic plan is focused on building an economy that works for everyone, with good jobs that people can count on. Les grandes
major investments in public transit, in EV battery factories, and in new energy projects are not just red ink in our fiscal statement. They are truly investments, decade-long investments in the economic growth, which creates middle-class jobs, which raises incomes and makes middle-class communities more prosperous.
Continental Railway a century ago. These are foundational investments which only governments can make. We believe in Canada, and we believe in the incredible possibility of Canada's future. And that is why we are making the investments that Canada needs to make that bright future a reality.
Bravo.
Affordable early learning and childcare is likewise an investment in our social infrastructure, and it is also transformative economic policy. It gives children the best possible start in life and saves middle-class families thousands of dollars a year, while also supporting record women's employment and thus helping to address the labor shortages which contributed to inflation. When I announced our plan to build a Canada-wide system of affordable early learning and childcare, some people were skeptical, and justifiably so. After all, it was a promise that had been made and broken for 5 decades. But today, just 2.5 years after we launched our plan, it is working. Childcare fees are down by at least 50% across Canada. In 6 provinces and territories, we've already brought childcare costs down to just $10 a day. And we are on track to deliver outstanding, nurturing care for $10 a day everywhere in Canada by 2026.
And it is women in Quebec who led the way in terms of affordable child care. Therefore, our plan supports the creation of 30,000 new spots to make child care services more accessible across the province.
Enhancements to Canada's social safety net, ranging from the Canada Child Benefit.
Okay, let's pull out of that. Let me see if she comes up with anything more about the housing. Yeah, she's going to be coming up here. Here we go. She's going to get into the housing
and
here, I
keep
think.
their homes when renewing at a time
She's
of
talking about the
higher
carbon
interest rates.
tax, not
And we're
referring to it
committed
specifically
to
here,
taking further action if necessary.
but
Our second objective is equally urgent. For generations, Canada has been a country where if you worked hard, if you went to school, found a good job, and squirreled money away, there would be a home that you could afford. For generations, that promise was kept. But today, for a generation that ranges from new high school graduates to couples in their 30s making six-figure salaries, that is a promise which is under threat. Keeping that promise demands a great national effort, and that is an effort that our government is stepping up to lead. Building on the significant action we have already taken, including this fall alone, I am today announcing new measures through our economic plan to build thousands upon thousands upon thousands of new homes across the country and to build them faster. We are unlocking billions of dollars in new financing, money that will go towards supporting the construction of new homes for Canadians. We are supporting nonprofit, co-op, and public housing providers. We will be helping to cut the red tape that prevents construction workers from moving across the country to build homes, and we will be bringing more of the skilled trades workers that our construction sector needs to Canada. We'll be cracking down on short-term rentals listed on sites like Airbnb and Vrbo, which are keeping far too many homes off the market in communities and cities right across the country. That's going to make a real difference to Canada. And Mr. Speaker, that is just what we are doing today. We are
That's
also
terrible.
making it easier for more than 200,000 and counting to buy their first home with the new tax-free First Home Savings Account. The federal government owns more land than anyone else in Canada, and we're going to build more homes on it. We're lifting the GST on new rental construction to make it more affordable for builders to build so that they can build more homes faster. We're repairing and building hundreds of thousands of new homes, and we are financing the construction of tens of thousands more. We have banned foreign investment in Canadian housing, and we're ensuring that property flippers pay their fair share. We're making it more affordable for families to construct secondary suites. And we have signed agreements with cities across the country to slash the red tape, which is preventing homes from being built in the first place. And in exchange, we're providing them with new funding to build more than 100,000 new homes faster. Because our country needs more homes, and we need more of them fast. Nous devons construire.
We must build homes in our biggest cities and our smallest towns. We must build detached family homes and secondary suites. We must build co-op housing and rental apartments. And it will take all of us, the federal government and the provinces, cities and towns, the private sector and not-for-profits, right across this great country. That's what our government is doing. And we are approaching this task with the purpose, drive, and intensity it deserves. We will keep working day after day, week after week, month after month, and year after year to build the homes that Canadians need and expect and deserve. At the heart of the promise of Canada is the conviction that every day should represent a new opportunity for all Canadians. No matter who you are, no matter what you look like, or who you love, or where you were born. Also, if you work hard, you can share in the remarkable possibilities of our wonderful country. This includes a good career that pays you well and a home you can afford.
Blah, 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 blah. Okay.
On the promise of the greatest country in the world.
Wait a minute. That sounds an awful lot like colonial settler exceptionalism to me.
That work
Kind of
will be
racist.
our government's work for these next 2 years and beyond. Canada is not and never has been broken.
No, but you're working hard at doing it.
We are the imperfect and remarkable creation of generations of Canadians who did their part to build a better country in good times and in tough times, calloused hand by calloused hand. Generations of Canadians who fought fear and cynicism with hope and hard work. Generations of Canadians who fought day after day to keep Canada moving forward. And generations of Canadians who believed, just as I do today, that in our magnificent country, better is always possible.
Just to come up.
Questions and comments, honorable.
Oh, here's Pierre Piolle. Okay, Pierre.
With this $20 billion of costly new spending, this update can be summed up very simply. Prices up, rent up, debt up, taxes up, time's up, Common sense conservatives will vote non-confidence on this disgusting scam.
After 8 years of this prime minister, he is not worth the cost, and today he's adding another $20 billion to inflation, which will put pressure on interest rates. In addition, today he proposes to increase taxes on the backs of middle-class people.
Yep.
So that is why the Conservatives, guided by common sense, will vote against and non-confidence in this government.
Yep. Good.
You know, a year ago, this finance minister told the House she'd have the budget balanced by the year 2028. In that time, she has announced $100 billion of additional debt above and beyond having doubled that debt in the first place. This debt is already being paid by Canadians with the worst inflation in 40 years, with interest rates that risk a mortgage meltdown on the $900 billion of mortgages that will renew over the next 3 years. That's 2/3 of mortgages, with the IMF saying that of all 40 OECD countries, Canada is the most at risk of a mortgage crisis. And now, her solution, another $20 billion of inflationary spending. This after the governor of the Bank of Canada has said the deficits are adding 2 full percentage points to mortgage rates on the backs of Canadians.
Right.
And finally, today they go ahead with a plan to quadruple the carbon tax.
Point of order. For the member from Elmwood Transcona, if you can just give me a minute, if I could just consult with the table for an instant.
I have no idea what they're saying.
Honourable member from Elmwood Transcona on a point of order.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I may have been under a mistaken impression. I thought we were in the question and comment period, but perhaps we're into speeches. I just wonder if you could provide some guidance to the leader of the Conservative Party. Thank you.
I thank the Honourable. I do thank the Honourable member from Elmwood Transcona. We are in a period of question and comment. There are 10 minutes for questions and comments. I am hoping that the Honourable Leader of the Opposition will come to his questions so that we'll have an equal amount of time for the Minister of Finance to respond, and as well as I know that there are other finance critics from each of the parties who would also like to ask questions and comments. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition, I hope, can come soon with his question.
We can always count on the NDP to betray their constituents and come to the rescue of the taxes. And so my question, not just on behalf of the common sense conservatives, but on behalf of the countless people who are losing their homes, who lined up at food banks, who are living through the worst economy since the Great Depression, is exactly how much will it cost the average family when this government goes ahead with its plan to quadruple the carbon tax? How much?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, let's start by setting the record straight. Canada has the lowest debt and the lowest deficit in the G7, and we've had the fastest rate of fiscal consolidation. And you don't need to ask me, Mr. Speaker, about our fiscally responsible track record. Talk to the ratings agencies, because they have reaffirmed our AAA rating. But Mr. Speaker, the question that we all need to be asking the Conservatives is, why are they so passionately opposed to the investments that Canadians need? Why are they opposed to early learning and childcare, which is working, which is making life more affordable for Canadians and is expanding our labor force at a time when we desperately need it? Why are they so opposed to building more homes faster for Canadians? Why have they said it is, quote unquote, disgusting to be investing in building more rental homes. Is it disgusting for us to be cracking down on Airbnb?
Yes.
And why are they so opposed to our essential investments in the industrial transformation
Indeed.
that Canada needs?
The Honourable Member for Ted Bunn. Among the measures called for by the Bloc Québécois that the Bloc wanted to see in this fall economic statement, there was one element that it was urgency. We called for monies for seniors who are suffering because of the rise in the cost of living.
Okay, so we'll just pull out of that for a while. So I think Pierre Poilievre nailed it. That's just my take on it. I think what the government is doing is just going to make things worse in some respects. You may end up with more housing, but their approach will create other economic problems. It will just create more inflation, more rising prices because they are simply throwing money at the problem instead of creating additional, like real value and real capital wealth. And what I mean by capital wealth is actual new homes built through the market, generated through the market, not generated through taxpayer spending, just simply by spending government money. That results in inflation because they're going into debt. It is not market driven per se. And yeah, I think it is disgusting to go after, crack down, as she said, on the operators of Airbnbs. I understand that in the minds, in their small little pea-brained minds, Airbnbs are evil because it's people investing in real estate and turning properties into rental properties, income generating property or capital, physical capital. Those dirty, stinking, filthy capitalists investing. How dare they invest in communities? How dare they invest in real estate? How dare they invest in order to make a return on an investment to profit from real estate, especially at a time when there's a housing shortage? We'll all say that people should be allowed to buy what they want to buy. The market should be allowed to do what it does. If people want to rent properties from someone who purchases properties, they should be allowed to engage in that transaction. The government should not be there blocking it because that transaction will ultimately benefit all of society. This person purchases property that stimulates market demand for the construction and maintenance of new properties because obviously there's demand for it. Sends a market signal out. Construction companies will build more in order to accommodate people who are still out there looking for more properties. When people come in and rent that property, it generates more economic linkages. It's economic stimulus through the free market. You don't have to spend any tax dollars to do that. And as the person renting it out makes a profit, that goes into their bank account, their standard of living increases, that creates affluence, increases their discretionary spending. They may simply put that money in the bank where it can sit, and the banks can put that to use, lending it out to people. Or they may spend it at the hot dog stand on the corner, at the variety store down the street. They might buy a washer, a dryer, a new car, who knows? And that creates more economic linkages, and it goes on and on. And as That happens. That creates what they call prosperity. And why shouldn't somebody be allowed to do that if they want to do it? Cracking down on it, it's like they're criminalizing free enterprise, the free market. That's exactly what they're doing. And why shouldn't someone be allowed to flip a property, purchase a property, fix it up, add value, and then turn around and sell it for a higher price, getting a return on their investment and their sweat equity, what they've put in, their blood, sweat, and tears, and compensation for the financial risk that they've taken. Why the heck not? And banning foreign investment, I understand that people see that as a problem because foreign investors will come in, they'll buy up apartment buildings or housing, not live in it, just turn around and rent it out. But I don't even really have much of a problem with that, honestly. Because again, it stimulates demand for more real estate. And if they would get, now the one thing they do need to do, which they are trying to do, get rid of the red tape, which is obstructing more construction. But if you let the free market function, you will get equilibrium. Things will stabilize. It will work itself out because everybody knows what's in their best interest. So they make decisions and vote with their dollars and go where they need to go. Unless, of course, you don't have any dollars. But why wouldn't people have any dollars? Because the government has printed so much money. Money isn't worth as much anymore. And because unemployment is at such a, well, it's much higher than they're letting on. And because you have so many new Canadians arriving or immigrants who are not employed. So they can't afford the housing. So they're just going to give it to them or give it to them at a substantially reduced rate below market value, which is inflated. All these problems, keep in mind, folks, were created by government. Now everyone is looking to the government for the solution. And they're not really giving you one. They're just giving you more of the same failed policies. And that's what that economic statement reveals. These are not really solutions. These are socialist band-aids that will just cover up an infected wound. They always take the direct, straight line, direct approach. We need housing. Just, oh, well, the government, well, we'll build it. The government will take care of it. Doesn't work that way. And then they're really just creating other problems. Getting rid of Airbnbs, cracking down on them as she put that. Why? It defies logic. It stifles economic activity. Indeed, when people engage in business transactions through Airbnbs, you know what else they generate? Tax dollars. Go back to the federal government and the provincial government and the municipal government. And they all benefit from that because that money can be used for infrastructure and other social programs or whatever it is the government feels they really need to spend the money on. But oh no, let's just take an axe to the economic activity and just put everything back in the hands of government again. Yeah, okay. So you're not really so they're thinking that they are creating more supply or by reducing demand, by cracking down on Airbnbs. You're not creating more supply. You're just stifling economic activity. That makes us all poorer, and it makes it more difficult for the country over the long run and even the short run to pay for stuff. You're shutting down an industry which is connected to tourism. No, man, just let people rent the things, get the government out of the way, and let people build. let the contractors build homes, and they'll build them, if you let them, according to market conditions, and people will come in and they will buy them according to market prices, and they will find jobs, and the market will equalize. No, they can't do it that way. They've got to control everything, and they'll just make everything worse. It's just that's how they control people. Talk about slavery. I think it's terrible what they're doing. Absolutely terrible. What other notes did I write down here? I don't know. I scribble so much. This is a problem that I used to have all the time when I was covering court. I write so quickly, and I write like a doctor. At the time that I write it down, there's a notes. When I write this stuff down, I know what I've written. It's almost like a form of shorthand. But then when I go back even 10 minutes later and I look at it, I'm like, I can't make out my own handwriting. In court, I would write so quickly, taking notes as people were speaking. And then I'd have to decipher it later to make sure that I got all the quotes right in my pieces. It's just, what a mess. I really need to learn how to write quickly in neater. That's what I need to do. Anyway, let's take a quick break. We'll come back on the other side. That's what's going on with the economic statement. We'll see where it ends up with the vote, but don't count on, when last I checked, the speech was still going on. So I'll dip in and check while we're on this little break, but don't expect that non-confidence vote to go anywhere. This will pass in the House, and government will continue the same way it has for the last, 8 years under Trudeau, at least for now. I think we're stuck with him, folks, at least until probably the middle of next year. Well, maybe not him. He could well resign early in the new year. There's so much pressure on him. We'll see how he does in the polls. And man, he does have to go, but on the flip side, God knows what we're going to get. Could you imagine Chrystia Freeland as the Prime Minister of Canada? Well, the bobblehead market would do well with her in the PM's position, wouldn't it? Lots of bobbleheads.
Hello, world. Are you awake? Uniting humankind by liberating millions of minds at a time. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay. On the parallel economy side, I don't know, are you guys familiar with what Binance is? Binance? It's a cryptocurrency exchange. For a while, they were operating here in Ontario in Canada. And I had a Binance account. I never had any trouble with them. In fact, they seem to be pretty good to deal with. When I set up the account, I didn't even realize that they're based in China, but they are. Well, things are not so rosy for Binance. They're facing a substantial fine because of their activities on the business side. So they are the world's largest crypto exchange, and they have been ordered to pay $4.3 billion. And this after the CEO of Binance has pled guilty to federal charges in the United States. they've admitted to violating U.S. laws to prevent money laundering and sanctions violations, and they agreed to pay the government the $4.3 billion in fines and fees. CEO Chang Zheng Zhao has also pleaded guilty to one federal charge. They've been under investigation, this company, by a variety of regulators, law enforcement agencies, which include the Commodities Future Trading Commission. And I know in here where I live, it was the Ontario Securities and Exchange Commission. And they shut them down. They said, you have to stop doing business in Ontario because they were trading in cryptos that I guess were not entirely approved in Canada, or in Ontario anyway. And they were using, I don't know, methods that did not meet the Ontario standard. So at the time, it was concern to me simply because I'd seen other cryptocurrencies and cryptocurrency based companies online shut down over the past about 4 or 5 years, not just in Canada, but in the US as well. And things seemed to be going okay with these companies until the government came in to impose their crackdown under regulations that were restricting activity by these crypto companies. Now, maybe they were acting in the best interests of consumers, the public, to protect investors. Hard to say. I was highly suspect, thinking that it might be the government moving in to just exert another form of overreach, in this case, economic overreach, regulatory overreach, targeting this company. But it seems to be pretty universal, this stuff directed toward Binance. To me, they seem to have the best system as a cryptocurrency exchange. That's why I used them. And when they were forced to shut down, I have to say they were quite good to deal with. They made sure that they gave you time to withdraw your money. Everyone got their money out, so they were quite straight up about it. There was nothing about it at all that seemed like it was any kind of a scam to me. And in fact, I still have that cryptocurrency sitting in a hard wallet, safe and secure. Not that there's that much there. I think my total investment was, I might have a couple of $100 in it. I was not a big crypto investor. But it's interesting to see this happening with Binance because so much. I never really thought too much about it, but crypto represents, for people within like the freedom movement, a path to economic freedom, or so they think. And I've really kind of dialed into that more, even just within the last month. I know that for even some countries that have adopted Bitcoin as an alternative to the US dollar, that for them represents a path to freedom. Certainly, organized crime has been using Bitcoin and crypto as a money laundering tool. And that for them is a path to freedom. And even when we had Bitcoin Ben on, he sort of did refer to Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, saying, if you do it right, they don't even know you've got it. But newsflash, if you have Bitcoin and you make money with it, even if it just increases in value, if you just buy, hold, and then realize a capital gain, that's taxable. So if you don't claim it on your income tax, that's actually technically illegal. And you could get into trouble for that. And here's another little juicy tidbit for you. Did you know that the CEO of Binance is actually a Canadian national? Yes, sir. That's right. And he did plead guilty in federal court today to violating anti-money laundering laws. He has agreed to step down from Binance's leadership. He faces a sentence of approximately 1 to 10 years in prison, with sentencing for next year. He says that stepping down as CEO is a difficult decision. He says, in his words, admittedly, it was not easy to let go emotionally, but I know it is the right thing to do. I made mistakes and I must take responsibility. This is best for our community, for Binance, and for myself, he posted online. And he said that Richard Tang, the global head of regional markets, will be the new CEO. I mean, this is big time money, man. Huge. Between January of 2018 and May 2022, prosecutors say that Binance processed 1.1 million transactions worth $900 million between Americans and individuals believed to be in Iran. Zhao and company executives, according to the court documents, were allegedly aware that exchanging American money would require the platform to follow U.S. sanctions laws, but also saw users in the U.S. as vital to growth. So they set up Binance US, a separate exchange for use by American cryptocurrency traders. But investigators say Americans remained on the original unregulated Binance platform too. And the purpose of the conspiracy, as they put it, was to allow Binance to continue to operate as a virtual currency exchange and gain market share and profit as quickly as possible. The defendants alleged or said, or will allegedly encouraged high-value clients to conceal and obfuscate their U.S. connections. So they were sort of skirting the law by allowing people to operate on both the domestic U.S. part of the Binance platform while also having access to the international platform where U.S. regulations were not entirely, well, they really didn't have any reach or enforcement mechanism. And so, again, according to the government, Binance was allowing illicit actors to transact freely and engage in financial transactions using cryptocurrencies to support all kinds of activities, which included things like child sexual abuse, drug trading, illegal drug trading, terrorism, and not just on a small scale. They were talking about and have identified over 100,000 transactions, all of which were laid out in court. And the transactions, many of them were directly connected to terrorist groups, including Hamas, Al Qaeda, and ISIS. And he entered a plea of guilty. He's not disputing it. They were allowing this stuff to go on. And, for people who aspire to, let's just say, put a lot of pressure on government, cryptocurrencies are very attractive to them because they represent a financial vehicle or tool they can use to move money around and not be detected, because it's all done on the blockchain and a lot of it can be done entirely anonymously. However, I'll put this out there. I'll say that people engaging in that kind of activity, they can still be caught, because anything that goes on online in any kind of digital format, I don't care what it is, there are kind of always back doors and different things that can be done for governments or spies or even organized crime to hack in and gain access. Maybe not through the blockchain itself. That may be impenetrable. Bad word. It may be secure. So you can't get into it. when I get my mouth back in gear, I'll maybe be able to say big words like that later. But they're quite often they can get into people's computers, right? By hacking in, get into someone's computer and then see what they're doing online, even with like keystroke logging and other kinds of hacking methods like that. So, yeah. Now, all that being said, I would say be aware of scams out there too, because there are many cryptocurrency scams out there. There was one years ago called USA Tech, which was supposed to be based on not just the blockchain, but also on Forex technology. So it could predict trades, and they were promising people unrealistic returns on investments. And it was essentially a pyramid scheme, which ultimately the government did shut down. Now, I have to say that everything was going along okay because cryptos continued to climb in value over time. But then USI Tech went bust because the government moved in and said, no, you can't do business. So what they did is they closed up shop. And then all the people who were running it basically just vanished in the night. And very few people got their money out. And that was a big one. But that goes back probably 7, 8, 10 years ago. That's just off the top of my head. Don't quote me on the dating. Anyway, that's just another big story on the financial front. What else do I have? There was something else related to that. Oh, yeah. Okay. There is this story here talking about money laundering, foreign governments, terrorism, even our political adversaries. This ties into it. CSIS, Canadian Security and Intelligence Service, our CIA, essentially. They are warning people about being approached by hostile state actors, as they put it. Let me show you the tweet. Here we go. According to CSIS, Canadian professionals are being targeted. See? So they posted this online on Twitter, and it says here, attention Canadian professionals, scientists, and academics. CSIS is aware of hostile state actors currently targeting Canadian professionals, scientists, and academics in an effort to obtain Canadian knowledge and expertise. So not a lot of other information in there. In fact, no other information, but you're getting the idea. They're offering people money and jobs, people who are professionals and maybe possess knowledge that is proprietary. They hire them on and then get them to tell all the juicy tidbits that they know about whatever company or whatever government agency they might have been working for prior. It says here, CSIS posts this. It says, these types of talent recruitment initiatives can result in the misuse of Government of Canada resources, as well as a loss of proprietary and sensitive information to the benefit of hostile state actors. If you have been offered well-paying research placements or collaboration opportunities from suspicious international sources, contact your respective security office, chief security officer, or CSIS if needed. Isn't that interesting? So that's what CSIS is posting. We also know that the head of Canada's military about a week ago came out and said that we are really officially at war with China and Russia. It's just not a traditional kind of war. It's fifth generation warfare. And this is also what I've been trying to tell everybody here on the show. All these things going on, this constant barrage of negativity online, this constant blame game, the fear porn, much of it, if not, well, I think the majority of it is designed to undermine trust and confidence in our institutions, in our government, to fan the flames of unrest, to be as disruptive as possible. And this is just one more thing. CSIS identifying a real problem with foreign governments and trying to steal secrets by coughing up money for people with knowledge who have been left maybe vulnerable because of a job loss or job change, or maybe just people who are susceptible to maybe even a little bit of greed. Psst, want a job? All you have to do is just bring those documents before you quit. Stuff them in a briefcase, bring them out, then we'll hire you. We'll give you a really good job. But it's also what we're seeing online in terms of information and the way people's minds are being manipulated. That's all part of it too. Strange times, difficult times. People don't even realize that being subjected to this stuff. You know, it's the one thing I've really learned, especially over, I'd say, the last year, is if you think about every bad thing that has ever happened in Canada or the United States, and especially the United States, everything, it doesn't matter what it is, every single bad thing, it's always our own fault. Everything. If there's a terrorist attack, it's our own fault. Doesn't matter if it's 9/11, the Boston Marathon, whatever it is, it's our own fault. It's never the terrorist. It might be at first in the first round of the media cycle, but these days, pretty quickly, it's turned around, and suddenly the terrorist is the victim, and it's our fault, and the fault of government, and the go-to. Oh yeah, the big go-to, the 100% of the time go-to. It's the CIA. It's always the CIA. Every single time. You can just put money on that because it's always the CIA. It's never anybody else. It seems like that's the narrative goes now. If only life really was that simple. If only. Just, CIA again. Look at that. That toad got run over on the CIA. Squirrel. CIA. Whatever. Can dig into it more later on, but this is something we touched on last night. Excuse me. Lieutenant Steve Rogers. This is kind of weird. Oh, it's not weird. Maybe it's not weird in today's environment. He, in a post last night in his online program, again focused on Canada, says Canada now does pose a national security threat to the United States. He says he has been talking to key politicians down there. This is the same Lieutenant Steve Rogers who started the SOS letter writing campaign, which I know thousands of people did respond to, many in Canada, essentially calling on the US government to intervene and save Canada, asking essentially for an invasion without realizing that they were kind of greenlighting an invasion by giving the US government justification through a citizen-led response to what some would characterize as a national or even international emergency that is putting the national security of the United States at risk. That's what that letter writing campaign did. It's like, will you please come and invade us? But anyway, maybe it's justified after seeing this thing with CSIS and knowing what I know about what's going on with the info war. Well, I'm going to run the part of the clip from Lieutenant Steve Rogers where he talks about Canada being, whoever would have thought we would be hearing things like this, a national security threat to the United States of America.
Now, let's get right to one of two subjects that I'm going to speak to you about. Pretty much at length, the progress we've made with regard to the Canada actually becoming a threat, a national security threat to the United States, and then a bit of a briefing on the position that we in America are taking with regard to Israel. Now, let's get to Canada. You know, folks, for the past 2 years, those of you who have followed us and have been with us, we have worked very hard. We, meaning you, the American people, the people working here at Campaign for America, we've been working very, very hard to get information out to the United States Congress, our Senate, and our congressional representatives that Canada is becoming a clear and present danger to the national security of the United States as a result of the policies that the Trudeau government is advancing. And I've got to tell you, folks, the list is so long, but I could tell you the policies that that government is advancing is certainly hindering the ability of the Canadian people to walk freely, to speak freely, even worshiping God freely. Now, it would take maybe another month for me to get all this information together and share with you, but we've got a lot of it out there, and we made it very clear that it is our duty as Americans to protect our country. And if we see or hear that there are anything going on in any nation in the world that is advancing communism, that we as a nation should invoke the Trudeau-Reagan doctrine, which is you go after communists anywhere on the face of the earth and make sure that they're wiped off the face of the earth. So we have a situation in Canada that the Canadian people will take care of. We can't get involved and interfere with the inner workings of the Canadian government, but the Canadian people, they certainly can. And I understand as of tonight that the people across that country, the Conservatives, are really rallying together to make sure that they get a change, and not only in the office of Prime Minister, but in the offices that are on Parliament Hill, just like what we've done in Congress and what we're going to do with the presidency next year. Now, let's get to this national security threat that we've been talking about. I remember when I had mentioned this, the first days, the beginning weeks of mentioning that Canada was becoming a national security threat to the United States. We were laughed at, we were ridiculed, the hate mail. I mean, I can't begin to tell you the messages of hate that we receive primarily from, and not all, but from the minority numbers of Canadian citizens who did what? Who bought into the Canadian government's messages that all is well. Now, it just so happens that probably 1,000 to 1, all right, 1,000 letters that were commending the work that all of us were doing, which is you and me and the American people here, and just praying for us and hoping that we were going to succeed. Well, tonight I'm happy to report to you that because of the work of the Canadian people in Canada and the American people who support Canada, that the United States Congress is now aware of a lot of the things, in fact, most of the things that we have been broadcasting, And of course, they've done a lot of their own work, which leads me to this. Folks, I'm going to get right to the facts. I'm going to mention names because you need to know the representatives here who have been working on this. U.S. Representative Mike Kelly, Republican from Pennsylvania, and Ryan Zinke, Republican from Montana, chairman of the Northern Border Security Caucus here in the United States, part of the United States Congress. They actually introduced a resolution calling on the Biden administration to address the alarming number, folks, that's their verbiage, the alarming number of suspects on the terror watch list who are crossing into the United States of America from the Canadian border. What do you think of that? What do you think of that? That's not just political rhetoric, because what I have in my hands are facts. I have numbers, I have statistics, and I have figures, all put together by these congressional representatives who decided not only to be obsessed and concerned with some of the issues what we shouldn't be involved in, the woke agenda and the pronouns and things like this, but these representatives are very, very involved in looking at the big picture here in the United States. Now, they know, as well as we know, because we've been talking about it, that we've got our eyes, we, the United States of America, and the Biden administration has their eyes, oh, by the way, as well as the press, on the southern border, right? What little we're doing down there, and we're absolutely doing nothing, but at least we're doing little. Well, we've warned our country, our leaders, get your eyes on the northern border. Don't get your eyes off of the Canadian-American border, because we believe that they've got to be, they meaning terrorists, the bad guys, if you will. We believe that they're coming in from the northern border where we have no assets, little or no assets watching that border. Again, laughed at, ridiculed, you're over-exaggerating, nothing's going on in Canada, and on and on. Well, this congressional group of men and women and others, apparently they learned that 85% of all suspected terrorists that are encountered on our borders in the United States of America crossed into the United States, not from the southern border, but from the northern border. How can that be? How can that be? You know how it could be? Because, as we've said all along, we've kept our eyes off of Canada. We kept our eyes off of the northern border, the United States of America. And where did that 85% come from? Well, it came from the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency. That's where it came from. The very men and women who are working these borders, they're the ones who would know, not the politicians. It would be the men and women, the heroes on the borders. Now, what does this 85% include? Now, hold on to this, folks. It includes over 3,000 people from Egypt, over 600 from Iran of all places. Iran, the arch enemy of the United States of America, the arch enemy of Israel, the country responsible for thousands and thousands of deaths of people across this planet, responsible for killing Americans during the Iraq War by building the IEDs, killing American soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines, and vowing to destroy the entire nation of Israel. And by the way, to destroy the United States of America. You know what we're hearing in the streets of Iran. Death to America, death to Israel, and on and on and on and on. And yet, over 600 of them came to this country across our northern border. Over 500 from Syria. And then we find out, according to the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Plan, as this was reported, we find out that hundreds of these people, hundreds of them, are from nations that are directly or indirectly involved with the war between Israel and Hamas. Mr. Trudeau, how could you let this happen? Canadian Parliament members, and I know some of your aides, if you will, I'm going to be nice tonight, aides and staff members watch this broadcast. How could you let this happen? How could all these people, enemies of freedom and liberty, enemies of the United States of America, who you say is a great ally of yours, well, apparently we're not. Apparently we're not. I mean, what are you doing across the border? 3,000 from Egypt, 600 from Iran, or 500 from Syria, and hundreds that are involved in some way, shape, or form with the Israeli-Hamas war. How does this happen? We're not taking this, at least I'm not taking it out of the sky. This has been reported. And by the way, it's been reported publicly. But no one took the time to look. We did. And so did the congressional representatives who introduced this resolution. By the way, it's not only them. House Republican Conference Chair Elsie Stefanik from New York, Representatives Jack Bergman from Michigan, Carol Miller from West Virginia, Matt Rosenthal from Montana, and John Molinar from Michigan. They've all co-sponsored the resolution. Now, folks, listen to this one. There is a common denominator regarding all of these congressional representatives. Common denominator. And think about what I'm about to share with you. The common denominator is they're all Republicans. I have not seen yet, and maybe I will. I hope I do, because this got to be bipartisan, which we're going to be working with these congressional representatives to get a bipartisan bill together to send a clear message to Trudeau and the Canadian government that this is unacceptable. But they're all Republicans. You know what that tells me? Like the Liberals in Canada, we have the Democrats here in the United States. They've got their own agenda. If they really cared about freedom and liberty, if they really cared about the national security of their countries, this would have been taken care of a long time ago. I go back to you, Mr. Trudeau. You're the guy running around telling the world how bad America is, how the blood is being spilled in the streets because of a Second Amendment out of control. You, Mr. Trudeau. You're the guy running around telling us how safe Canada is. Hey, open up your newspapers. You may not get our news because you censor it, but we get yours. And one day we'll do a broadcast about all the stabbings that are going on in Canada. You want to ban the knife now? Yeah, my blood pressure goes up when I hear rhetoric coming out of the mouth of leaders like Trudeau and Joe Biden, telling us everything is hunky-dory. Don't worry about it, folks. Government will take care of things. Well, I've said often, the guy behind me there, Ronald Reagan, he warned us. He says, government will never solve the problems. Government is the problem.
Yeah. Can't disagree with much what he said. Now, I don't know. He's taking a pretty heavy hand there with the communists, wiped them off the face of the earth. Yeah. But yeah, everything else basically kind of true. I've been trying to warn everybody that there's a real threat and that they're engaging in warfare. It's just not with bombs and guns and fighter jets. They're doing it in different ways. And we've seen the threat emerging in Canada on the terrorist front because of the mass immigration. And I would put it to you that there is corruption, politicians being paid off at the risk of, it's just so obvious. And that's why we're seeing Khalistani separatists from India now living here with dual citizenship protected by Canadian law so that the Indian government, which views them as terrorists, they can't be touched. So essentially, Trudeau is protecting them from their government. That's just one example. And yes, it seems like it would have been inevitable anyway, right? If you bring in people from other countries in a massive way, you're going to be bringing in a lot of their problems with them. And now these problems just coming home to roost. I can't disagree with much of what he said at all. The only thing is, when I called out Lieutenant Steve Rogers before because of that letter writing campaign, that concerned me simply because I still believe in Canadian sovereignty. I believe the Canadian people should retain the right to self-determination as a nation state, as a country, as a society, as a community. It's up to us The last thing we need is to give any country, let alone a superpower, justification to invade us, which made me laugh more than anything. I understand what he was trying to do. It's just at the time, it seemed like it was an ill-conceived idea simply because the very nature of the exercise undermines Canadian sovereignty. And while everybody especially in the freedom community in Canada, was shouting and screaming and worrying about the United Nations coming in here and doing an end run around our sovereignty, they're also writing letters to the United States asking for us to essentially, we're giving them a green light on the US side to come and invade us, saying, please help us, SOS, save us from Trudeau. It just didn't make sense to me at all at the time. I do share the concerns, though, about all of the security risks that are very, very clear right now. And you're seeing it in the streets. You're seeing this rise in polarization and friction and arguing and fighting in the streets at these demonstrations. You have a demonstration and a counter demonstration, a protest and a counter protest. The Israel-Palestine thing, that's divided people more than anything. Amazing. What has happened with that? Anyway, that's Lieutenant Steve Rogers. We're going to take a brief break, and when we come back, I'm going to run another clip from him, which deals with the Israel-Palestine Hamas question. And some people think that it's pretty extreme. So don't go away. We'll have more right after this.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
Okay, so now we move on to the issue of Israel, Hamas. Lieutenant Steve Rogers, I ran this last night. Many of you maybe didn't stick around to see this because we were running our feature film and had our watch party, which was kind of fun. But in the course of that, did provide a couple of news updates, and this was part of that. And this adds to the story that we've just been talking about. Here he is now talking about Israel and what he wants to do about protesters here.
Jewish symbols out in front of your homes and on and on and on. That cannot stand here in the United States. And I'm sure the Canadians agree with me. And anyone in the free world agree that cannot stand. Now, I'd like the Jewish people to know here in the United States, and anytime we can affect what we do here in America, in any country on the face of the earth, we're going to do this. We're going to help you. Know that millions and millions and millions of Americans stand with you. You will not see them marching in the streets. You will not see them causing havoc. You will not see them blocking highways and byways. You will not see them do that. But what you will see the American people do is what is most important: to get out to the polls, to vote, to remove from office every single liberal and anti-Israel person and pro-Hamas person, to make sure that they never become part of this government. And in addition to that, this organization has, and many with me have, called for the arrest and detention of anyone protesting in favor and in support of Hamas, a terrorist organization. Now, when I first mentioned that, all hell broke loose here, but I'm going to tell you something, folks. I said it on national television, and when I was challenged as to how on earth could you call for the detention of people who are protesting, exercising freedom of speech, and my answer was this: I believe in freedom of speech. I will always support that. But when that speech crosses the line to aid and abet the enemies of the United States of America, it's time to understand that that's not freedom of speech. That is the spread, the aiding and abetting of the enemy through propaganda. That is what it is. Liberals, and I must say, maybe some conservatives, but politicians for the most are scared to death to even repeat those words that I said, scared to death. They're scared to death of being criticized. Well, yeah, you want to take their freedom away. You want to put them in cages and on and on and on. Anyone who goes into a small town like they did in Israel, behead kids, torture people, burn babies alive, and on and on and on, they belong in a cage. They're animals. They belong in a cage. They should be put on trial, and they should be given the death penalty. It is as simple as that. It is as simple as that. Those are not people. They're animals. And military who have military careers that a lot of these pencil pushers in Congress don't have. When you have a ceasefire, you're giving the enemy to regroup. You're giving the enemy to store their ammunition and to get ready for the next attack. Imagine, and this is a fact, Hamas said, look, there's going to be another October 7th and another one and another one and another one. So Bernie,
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, I think we're okay there now. Just check the chat. Are we okay, guys? Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thanks for letting me know. I could see that it froze, but it looked like it froze for only like a moment. But obviously, the problem was worse than I realized. But we're back up, cranked up, and rocking and rolling again. So, did you guys see that stuff from Lieutenant Steve Rogers? I don't think I need to rerun that, do I? Essentially, he's Lieutenant Steve Rogers, just to give you the recap. Canada's a national security threat to the United States because we have allowed terrorists into our country. 85%, he says, of all terrorists entering the United States now cross into the United States from Canada. He's talking to key politicians on the US side who have their eye now on the northern border. They see Canada as a real credible threat, a clear and present danger, which is something I never thought I would ever be hearing in my lifetime. And a lot of this obviously seems to be tied to the situation in Israel, the conflict between Israel and Hamas in the Gaza Strip, refugees, immigration, protests in the streets. Lieutenant Steve Rogers tonight again calling for the arrest and detention of anyone who protests in favor of Hamas. That's a lot of people. We've seen thousands and thousands and thousands of people in the streets. Anti-Israeli protests, pro-Hamas. Indeed, far fewer pro-Israeli people out there than there are pro-Palestine, pro-Hamas. And how far do you go? How many people have been out there using that chant, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, which equates to we're going to wipe Israel off the map. Would that be enough to justify if having people to get you to have you thrown in the slammer, detained, arrested, incarcerated, held on what? Terrorism charges? I don't know. Maybe we could get some clarification from him. That seems that's pretty heavy stuff. And he's a lot of followers. Does it carry any weight? Not really. He's not in office as far as I know, but he does have some sway with politicians and certainly with his online community. And I can't argue against the threat. I see it too. I do. It's very concerning to me. The polarization, the people at each other's throats out in the streets, I think is just all the way around a terrible thing. It's not good for our countries here. This conflict, we've imported it, and now it's here. It's not just over there anymore. And it's not because, well, I guess indirectly, it is because foreign governments, I think, have been throwing kerosene on a fire, helping it burn. The result, more refugees, more immigration, and we've imported the problem in an effort to do the right thing, to be good people. We've left ourselves vulnerable. I'm just looking at the comments in here. Yeah, and I see people making reference to watch this person, watch that person. Yeah, you know what I'm seeing a lot of right now? I'm seeing a lot of journalists and influencers who are showing bias in a way that makes me question their credibility all the way around. Not naming names, but I'm taking note. Yeah. Yeah, looking at all the comments. Yeah, I know. I hear you guys. I hear y'all. And Curly May is asking if I'm talking about Kevin O'Leary. No, I don't know. Honestly, no, not specifically Kevin O'Leary. I don't know. That's his. All I'm saying is his name has been thrown around out west. I think his name has been dropped out there, but whether there's any truth to that, I can't say. I didn't know that his name was going to get thrown around over here on this program. It just did on the live portion. I can't accuse Kevin O'Leary of anything other than, you know, all I know is his name is being thrown around as part of a political party. That's all I know. And he's actually he's been tied directly to the Conservative Party of Canada. He ran for the leadership, so we know has a direct connection there. Beyond that, there's some weird things going on for sure. Stuff that I'm looking at, but no, I can't accuse Kevin O'Leary of doing anything underhanded or improper at all. So I did reach out to him. He hasn't responded, and I'm honestly not surprised given the nature of the subject matter that his name was being tied to. But that's why I reached out to him, because it was actually pretty surprising to me that he would even be associated with it in any way. But there's his name. Anyway, we'll see if he responds. So far, no response from Kevin O'Leary, which I don't know what to read into that. I just don't know. But whether he likes it or not, his name is still being thrown around out there, not by me, but by other people. And he might want to respond to it. He might want to call me to find out what's going on. I'll fill him in. Let's take another break, and we'll move on to other news of the day. Stuff that's actually related to the stuff that we've just been talking about. So even though we're trying to move on, it keeps trapping us. We can't get away from it.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay. So what should we touch on next? Kind of keep the thread going here properly. So let's segue into let's do this next. The Christmas thing. It's just a brief thing. The Canadian Human Rights Commission says Christmas is discriminatory. Oh, man. And this, yeah, I think it's related to everything we've just been talking about. Christmas is discriminatory, says Canadian Human Rights Commission report. Observance of Jesus' birth is an obvious example of religious bias rooted in colonialism. And this is from a Blacklock's report. Let's move over and take a look at that specific report. And, you know, this is all a result of changing demographics, living in a secular society, ongoing assaults on Christianity, a constant barrage of online propaganda, all designed to make us question and lose confidence in our institutions, in our churches, in our government, even in ourselves. Call Christmas colonial bias. So there's that report, Blacklocks. Merry Xmas. Oh, I'm still going to celebrate Christmas. I am. You know, this is fifth generation warfare. And then I got to thinking, you know, it's like everybody is twisted around, so confused about everything. A lot of that is because of the information war. It's all because of the information war. And I got to thinking about Battlestar Galactica. There are two versions, right? The original, and then there's the newer one. And the reason I was thinking about it is because that storyline so plays into what is going on today. You know, it's about digital, synthetic transhumanism created by humans and that sort of future versus natural, organic, biological, analog existence, which is what we all come from, but we're now moving into a digital reality. Here I am sitting in a computer in front of you. This is a digital manifestation of me that you're watching. Is it really me, or is that just bits and bytes and bits of energy? What's reality? What isn't? Artificial intelligence, all these things. So Battlestar Galactica. When I watched it as a kid, it also dealt with, very loosely, but the references were there to colonialism. Because the storyline goes, of course, that these Cylons are created by humans, and then the day comes along when they decide to turn on their human creators and exterminate them. But it opens up all these questions about what is human, and the humans flee their homeland and about exploring across the universe in search of Earth. But they're called colonial warriors because they're settlers. Apparently, you know, the Cylons, the creation of the humans, I guess I don't know if they're settlers or not, but they're referred to as colonial warriors. So there's this whole thing about it, right? Let me just show you. So here's a little bit from the original series. And, you know, this is actually, I'm trying to have a serious discussion. This isn't just me reminiscing about Battlestar Galactica, there's a serious, very serious side to this. Let me just speed this up a little bit. I can run it without getting the copyright strike.
There are those who believe that life here began out there, far across the universe, with tribes of humans who may have been the forefathers of the Egyptians, or the Toltecs, or the Mayans.
Interesting how it all kind of goes back to the ancient times.
Some believe that there may yet be brothers of man who even now fight to survive somewhere beyond the heavens.
Okay, so Battlestar Galactica, 1978. Oh, I was pumped when I was a kid when that came out. The original released in theaters first as a feature-length film, then shown on television later, became a TV series. Great storyline, sort of dumbed down a little bit or made family friendly. It was aimed at exactly, me when I was a kid in the 70s. And it deals with a lot of the issues that we're dealing with today, but more so the newer version of Battlestar Galactica. Let me bring that up. Run you a little bit of that. And here we go. Let me start it over. Cylons were created by man. They were created to make life easier on the 12 colonies. Slaves. Machines or slaves? And then the day came when the Cylons decided to kill their masters. After a long and bloody struggle, an armistice was declared. Where Silent Him can meet and maintain diplomatic relations. Every year, the colonials, blah, blah, blah. The Cylons send to no one. No one has seen or heard from the Cylons in over 40 years. Oh, but these are the new Cylons. The old ones are cooler too. I kind of like the old ones. Uh-oh. In trouble now. Deep doo-doo. And so they can take on human form in this version. Anyway, you're getting the idea, right? And I'm sure you're familiar with the storyline, so I won't go too deep into it. And I don't want to get into the copyright things, so we'll just pull down out of that. But, so it just raises a lot of questions. So, like, for instance, imagine if we were invaded and occupied by a foreign power. What would you do? Would you fight back? A lot of people try and fight back right now because they kind of feel like we have been invaded, right? Or what if someone pointed a gun straight at you, threatened to kill you, unless you signed an order that you knew would condemn hundreds or thousands of people to certain death? Would you be responsible for those deaths? And if you have superior technology, as European settlers did when they arrived in Canada, and what became Canada and the United States, because they had guns, gunpowder, and superior technology, does that give you the right to impose your will on a culture that is technologically inferior? Now, if something is sentient, if a robot or if artificial intelligence, a computer, becomes self aware or believes that it's a human being or acts like it's human, or if it becomes self aware, how? In 2001 A Space Odyssey. But if it thinks it's alive, and what if it even looks human? Should that then be treated like a human? Should it have the same rights as a human being? At what point does something become human? These are questions that are all relevant to what is going on today. We hear rhetoric from people like Lieutenant Steve Rogers, officials at the IDF in Israel, people who represent Hamas, all calling each other human animals or just animals that need to be essentially exterminated. We've heard that kind of rhetoric before in various wars, especially in World War II. And here we go again. And here's this television series that originally was sort of aimed at kids dealing with these really heavy duty philosophical questions. A lot of what the newer version of the series was based on was the fear, the uncertainty, and the moral ambiguity that came after 9/11 in this new world that we're living in, this new, more restrictive world where our rights are under constant pressure, erosion. There are lessons, I think, to be learned from that television series. If not lessons, it puts us through a mental exercise like the one that we're going through right now, forcing us to think about these very issues. Colonialism, settlers, slavery, what is it? And the way warfare is fought today, it sort of plays out in a real way in Battlestar Galactica. It makes you think, and it gives you a frame of reference that helps you understand, I think, the way war is being waged today. Fifth generation warfare. You see, the Cylons, basically a digital life form, a form of transhumanism has taken hold within the world, within their world, where cybernetic organisms or robots, Cylons, have sort of crossed that line from being a machine into a sentient, self-aware, transhuman life form, which begs the question, should they still be enslaved or should they be freed? Should they be there to serve their masters? Are they just machines? Should they just be treated as machines? And it all comes down to perception, the way people view things. Some people think animals should have, like literally animals, like cows and sheep and geese and bats and frogs and toads. They should all have the same kinds of rights as human beings. Some people take it to that level. And so what we're faced with here is, an endless war. And isn't that really what's going on in Israel, Palestine, thousands of years, really, if you want to keep going back and back and back and back in time. And now that conflict is here on our shores. We have, in many respects, according to Lieutenant Steve Rogers, we have been invaded. So how are we going to deal with this? And it is fifth generation information warfare. And that brings me full circle to what we were talking about last night. It's also about this struggle between the digital reality versus the organic or natural reality. Natural law, as some people put it, versus man-made law? That in itself is sort of a separate question, but more to the point, it's what kind of future do we want? Do we want one that is predicated on technology that takes us into an unknown future because it will be a real brave new world? We're entering that now, and in many respects, it does reflect our current brave new world, does reflect exactly what was laid out in Huxley's novel, A Brave New World, science fiction. We're seeing all those things play out, whether it's the use of drugs or the approach to relationships and sexuality. All of those things predicted in his book are true today. And in terms of Battlestar Galactica, the very clear line, the question, digital, analog, transhuman, organic. Spike vaccines or natural vaccines or no vaccines at all. What kind of future do you want? And I don't think it's that simple. I don't think it's that cut and dried. Unfortunately, I think that people do tend to look at things in black and white terms, good versus bad, good versus evil, black versus white, up versus down, left, fascism versus communism. Last night, what were we talking about? Flying cars. This is really a teachable moment in time because the flying car thing is a perfect example of how I see people being misled, or because of fear, we're not really asking the right questions, and we're not really demanding the right things, which is why, especially people sort of on the freedom side, if you will, who feel threatened, can't seem to make any gains, or they feel like they can't make gains. We feel like we can't win. It's because we're not asking the right questions. We're not demanding the right things. Just like in the movie we ran last night, which is Things to Come, had the space gun to shoot people into space and go to the moon. And the angry mob descended upon the space gun at the end because they decided that it was a threat to their way of life, a threat to humanity. They were against progress, technology. They didn't want that. So there were two competing factions. And because of the fear of the future, some people wanted to just destroy it rather than deal with it. And then, as the movie sort of lays out, I think the message from the movie is that people are always self-destructive in that way because they let fear overcome them. They can't think rationally. And then we keep self-destructing, only to then recover and reach even greater heights later. But as soon as we reach a new height, it takes time for people, a lot of the people, I think maybe even just, the average person, to catch up to the technology that accelerates at a more rapid pace over time. And I think that's where we're at in many respects today, too. People are all very afraid of change. Nobody hates change more than me. I'm set in my ways, that's for sure. But I've learned over time that you can't stop change. You can't. It's coming. It's inevitable. And in a lot of ways, it is a mistake to try to resist it. You have to adapt, learn to cope, and use it. And that's what I've been trying to say here on the program, too. And the flying car thing, perfect example. So last night on the show, when we had the call-in portion, I don't remember who it was that called in, but they were worried, they didn't like the flying cars, the idea of it, because the response was, don't like it because they'll just impose a social credit score on it, and then you won't be able to use it, so we shouldn't have it. Wrong question. Wrong response, wrong approach. Let me show you, well, what the flying car thing looks like. Again, this is a different one. A lot of new designs coming out, new technology being developed. Hyundai, in particular, is a company that is on the cutting edge of this stuff. As I showed you last night, they have a whole plan set up for heliports, mini airports in urban areas that will basically eliminate the need for the construction of overlapping superhighways and roadways and maybe even high-speed rail. It'll just replace all of that. You could leave huge green areas, just leave forests there and fly right over them. You know, instead of building highways, you could use land for farms, just fly right over them. You don't need to stack highways on top of each other between cities. You just have air lanes. You don't have to build anything. They just fly. Well, here's another design from Hyundai's related company, Supernal. Just run a little bit of this so you can see what I'm.
Car makers are rising to the challenge of shaking up the aviation industry with new types of aircraft powered in more environmentally sustainable ways that could open up new modes of transportation. Companies like South Korea's Hyundai and its new advanced mobility division, Supernal, believe they're best qualified to press the reset button. Supernal came to the recent Farm Air Show in England to make its case to the aerospace community, and it gave crowds a glimpse of what its first planned 5-seat eVTOL vehicle looks like.
So what we've got here is a rendering of the cabin that was developed in conjunction with Hyundai's design centers and the Hyundai Motor Group, so the various brands. And it is focused on making it passenger-friendly, accessible, uses very light colors. The structure of the construction is very functional, so hand grips and coat racks, and a window display that's based on a butterfly, mimicry, to give line of sight for the passengers. So we've had very positive reactions. We think it shows that special something that the car designers have been able to bring to the table.
Well, during the Farnborough Air Show, the UK endured record high temperatures that exceeded 40 degrees Celsius.
Well, whatever. I don't care about that. But what I do care about is a great future, a prosperous future, a future of growth with a higher standard of living for everyone, a society where we solve a lot of the problems facing humankind. Those machines are tools, nothing more. We shouldn't be afraid of them, whether they're powered by batteries or maybe we could, there's no reason they can't power those things with aviation fuel, gasoline, essentially. Regardless, they're coming. We're being told that, and the technology is there. They could do it now. They just need to build it. It's just going to take some time, and it is coming. But it occurred to me, thinking about Battlestar Galactica, the digital future, the convergence of digital technology and human beings, machines and man, transhumanism, artificial intelligence, displacement of workers. The real issue is not so much the technology itself. It's a class struggle of sorts, not necessarily, a communist versus fascist class struggle, although you may view it that way. I guess you could in a way. It's a globalist elite vision of the future being imposed upon the masses. And the average person, the working class and the welfare class, if you want to call it that, most vulnerable in society, they don't know how to cope. They are the most vulnerable, they feel the most vulnerable, and yet everyone is vulnerable heading into the future. Even the most educated. Because doctors, lawyers, scientists, all kinds of white collar workers, bankers, everyone, jobs at risk. If you're a banker, you may soon be replaced by a computer using artificial intelligence that can make decisions using artificial generative intelligence, which is the next tier of AI. They're all going to lose their jobs. Highly skilled, highly educated people with specialized skills and knowledge. What will that result in? They're going to be out in massive numbers looking for some sort of gainful employment. They'll be working in farm fields, except they won't even be able to do that because mechanical pickers have replaced most of those workers as well. So what are people going to do? I personally think human beings adapt. We'll all shift. We'll all find other vocations, do things that AI ultimately will not be capable of doing in exactly the same way. Human beings will bring value that can't be realized in any other way. But the fear could drive us all, and is driving some of us, to run after the space gun like a mob, attempting to destroy it because we're afraid of it, instead of seeing and realizing the potential of it and embracing it and making it work for us. Instead of, I would put it to you, instead of running like a mob toward the space gun, or in this case, the flying car, and demanding that it just not happen, trying to destroy it, destroy the potential, destroy it all, kill it before it happens, it's a mistake. Because one, we're not going to stop it. The technology is coming whether we like it or not. It's inevitable. Two, it's the wrong approach, the wrong question, because it's really about this. It's about access. And I want access. I want access for me. I want access for you. I want opportunity for me and opportunity for you. I want everyone to have equal opportunity and equal access to the system. That's the key to the whole thing. And not because of a social credit score, but because it's socially just. And I'm not talking about social justice in the same way that the neoliberal progressive woke crowd talk about it. I'm talking about it from the perspective of an individual's rights, about personal liberty, about what's enshrined in the US Constitution, less so in Canada. But those concepts are still powerful and still there. And that's what we need to defend and demand. And yet it's a socialist kind of idea. I can't remember who it is that said this, but there was a prominent Canadian politician years ago that resonated with what he said. And I read this. I didn't hear him say it, but it was in a textbook. And I'm so sorry I can't remember his name. But it was a question. Stuck with me. It's been with me my whole adult life since university. The question asked was, in an affluent society, is a man who cannot afford a bus ticket truly free? It's an important question, entirely relevant to everything we're talking about, because it's about expectations, it's about standards, it's about equal opportunity and access. It's the key to everything. It means, depending on where you live in the world or what time in history we happen to live in, our expectations are different. If you lived in the 1800s, before there were automobiles, the most you could hope for was to maybe have a horse, and maybe a horse and buggy, not an automobile. But as time marches on, society becomes more and more affluent, more technological. Do you still want to have the horse and buggy, or do you want the automobile? You want the automobile. You want access to that. Or maybe to the streetcar. You want a Model T, and then, you see from the streetcar, you want to graduate, you aspire to getting a Model T, and then as time goes on, then you're gonna get into a modern era of vehicles. And if you can't have access to a car, at least you want access to public transit of some kind, so you can get around, so that you have an equal opportunity to move about and have freedom of movement and mobility, so you can go to a job, go visit your family, have a high standard of living comparable to what anybody else in society has. So you have the same level of opportunity. Would it not be a mistake? I mean, you can be Amish if you want to be. You can freeze time if you choose to, build a parallel society, go back in time, or choose to not embrace technology at all. Some people have done that, and that's a choice, and they find peace and fulfillment in whatever it is in their way of life, and that's entirely cool. But me, I want great opportunities for my community, for my neighbors, for my kids. I don't want them to just have access to a horse. I want them to be able to have a car if they want it. And if they'd want to live in a big city in the core, maybe they don't want a car, but they want access to public transit. They need to be able to at least afford to buy that bus ticket. They can get around, so they have equal opportunity, access to system, access to a job, access to the mobility that provides transportation to and from or for that job, so they can feed their families. In the future, we're not going to be able to stop flying cars. I don't want to destroy them right now. I want equal access. I want to be able to ride in that thing. I want you to be able to ride in it if you choose to. I want you to be able to buy one if that's the standard of the day, so that you can have access to it too, so that you can compete for the jobs, so that you can have the same quality of life as someone who is affluent, so that everyone hits a certain level of affluence. That's about the middle class. What is middle class? It's a different standard depending on the area you live in and depending on what technology we have at the time. And I think it's a mistake to be so fearful of what is coming in the future and the very near future, to run away from it, to run into the woods, live in a shed or a tent, and think that you're doing yourself a favor by prepping to a point where it's like, I'm just going to get off grid, go live like a hermit in the mountains away from everyone. And for some people, maybe that's what you want to do, and that's cool. And you can become entirely self-sufficient if you want to. But you are removing yourself from the rest of society. You're becoming Grizzly Adams living in the mountains, isolating yourself, freezing time, maybe using technology. That's the ironic thing about this. I see people doing it, getting off grid, and yet they embrace technology. They put up solar panels and use all these technologies that the people on the other side are trying to use anyway. And they end up doing to themselves what they're afraid the other side is going to do to them. which is to abandon everything or abandon their standard of living to then go live in an isolated way instead of having a larger home in the suburbs with a vehicle or maybe even a flying car. They go live in the mountains, so they've decided they're going to go live off grid and live off in the woods someplace. No. Where life can be very difficult, honestly, if you're there by yourself. And no man is an island. You still have dependency on the rest of society in some way, because if you have solar panels, you still need to service them. They're going to last 20 years, then you got to replace them. Where are you going to get those? They're going to be manufactured someplace at a factory, and you're going to have them shipped in. And I understand. My point is, though, you can't just run away from stuff all the time. If it makes more sense to say, hey, we're going to get organized. We know this stuff is coming. So let's take steps, put pressure on to make sure we have access, equal access. That means fighting things like social credit scores, for sure. It means getting involved with our legislators, policymakers, politicians, bureaucrats, getting involved in our communities to put safeguards in place, guardrails that ensure everyone stays on the road, and that these technologies are not abused in ways that hurt people, that they benefit us, and that we all have enough money to buy a ticket to get on that flying car. Because you don't have the money to get on that flying car, you can't buy that ticket. The guy who does is going to get the job in the city that on foot is weeks away, by traditional car is maybe 3 or 4 hours away. He's going to be there every day in 15 minutes. And that's not a 15-minute city, that's a 15-minute country. Because he's going to get from one city to the next in 15 minutes. Where he's going to work, then he's going to climb back in the flying car and fly back to his home in the suburbs in 15 minutes. And you couldn't do it in a day. A conventional vehicle. Because they're that fast. Think about the future. I want access. I want access for everyone. I don't want to throw the future away. I don't want to destroy the space gun. I don't want to smash it. I want to make sure that we all have access to it. Because you see, that's the thing. If they're going to build these things, they have to make sure everybody has access. These solve the problems of congestion in big cities. Parking, traffic issues. These solve the problems. And they bring the world closer together. So we better learn how to live together too, because we're all going to be living in a more condensed world, not because we're so much physically closer together, but because these machines will compress time. They'll make everything more efficient. We're going to get from point A to point B way faster. If you aren't, time is money, time is productivity, time is efficiency, mobility, and mobility is a right. Mobility is a right. You have the right to move around, but are your rights being violated? Is your right to mobility being violated if in a modern society you don't have the money to buy the ticket to get on that flying car? At least the public transit version of it. Let alone to purchase a flying car so you have it available to you at a moment's notice. The way cars and public transit are set up today. The point is, we shouldn't be afraid of the future. We just need to recognize that it's coming, see, and then work through it and deal with it because it's come anyway. Think rationally about it. The warfare stuff, the Cylons, the digital reality, like that's all coming true too, whether we like it or not. And it's here now. And people better open the other eye and stop being just half awake and get the other eye open and understand that you are the cybernetic organism because your head, like mine, is stuck in the metaverse already, being bombarded with messaging constantly all day long through the internet. We're being manipulated. So make yourself more media literate. Open your eyes, understand that it isn't just a lot of the time the people that, or the organizations, the entities, our government, which is getting the blame for everything, including you, by the way, not always the case. There are multiple players here. You just saw that notice from CSIS. Foreign actors getting involved here because they're attacking us in unprecedented new ways. Digital warfare. And it's right there. And when they do that, by the way, the first thing they do, it's not, they send in operatives or they convince people who repeat this messaging. Oh, no, it would never be China. It's the CIA. It's always the CIA every single time. It could be the CIA, but it's the other guys too. It's all of them. But we've got a problem with terrorism, and it's on our doorstep. So wake up to that too. We've got that going on. Like it or not. That's the new reality too. Just food for thought. Let's take a break. I'm going to take a look and see if there's anything else that I have for us before we move on. So don't go away and don't eat the crickets.
We are Mavericks. We say no to the Trudeau and Biden New World Order. And to bugs. Because bugs are creepy and gross. And people should not eat bugs. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Hey, no! To bugs!
Say no to the bugs. I'm not eating them. I check the ingredients when I go to the grocery store now, and I don't eat them. And they're out there already, man. You can find them. And they're, like I said before, man, they're going to grind those things up and they're putting them in, flour and processed food products. And you're not aware. But not me. I check ingredients. So I hope I'm not getting them anyway. I'm determined to avoid eating bugs as much as possible. And that's not running away from the future. That's running away from insanity. For crying out. And they are nuts. Some of these people are just plain freaking nuts. So just say no to the bugs and say no to Trudeau and Biden. Let's get things back on track. Joe Biden met with Mexican President Andre Manuel Lopez Obrador. And they were talking about, and this is go back, I think on Friday, They were talking about migration, the border, fentanyl, drugs, all of that stuff. It relates to everything that we're talking about here, too. We didn't really get much out of the APAC summit, but this is what they said. Just run a little bit of this.
That all our citizens benefit from our economic growth. And we see it in our work to strengthen supply chains, including through the America's Partnership for Economic Prosperity. We've been cooperating there as well. We see in our cooperation to address historic levels of migration. And I want to thank you, Mr. President, and your team. I really mean it, for the cooperation and your leadership in taking on this challenge. I know it's not easy. Together, we're taking a balanced approach that lies at the heart of the Los Angeles Declaration on Migration and Protection, and we and 19 other nations have signed on to that agreement. So it includes enforcing our borders, increasing reparations, and opening a historic number of legal pathways for migrants. So I want to thank you again, all the things that are of consequence to us. I couldn't have a better partner than you. Thank you.
We are highly satisfied of joining you here in San Francisco and have the opportunity to meet President Biden anew. The relation between our countries is excellent. Our people, our friends, this is a respectful and cooperative relationship for development. In recent years, basically due to this great relationship we have with our neighboring and brother country, we are commercial partners. We are the main trade partners in the world, which is outstanding. At the same time, there are around 40 million Mexicans working and living with decency in the United States, which strengthens our bonds. And of course, progress needs to be made, further progress needs to be made to address the migratory phenomenon. We're working on that jointly in coordination, and we wish to thank President Biden because he is the first president in recent times in opening legal pathways for migration. In the past, there were no possibilities for people who needed to come to the United States. There were no legal possibilities open, and it is President Biden who opened up this possibility upon a request placed by Central America and the Caribbean countries. They file the petition, and after an assessment is made, they are allowed to enter the United States, which means that they no longer have to cross our country with all the suffering and risks such endeavor poses. It's a humane way to address the migratory phenomenon. And I would also like to express and to state that he is the first president in the United States in recent times who has not built walls. It is true, and we need to continue to support one another. So migration is an option and not enforced. We wish to assist the people in their countries of origin when they are forced to migrate. We are fully satisfied in holding this meeting. And as regards to drug control, Mexico's undertaking is to continue to support so we do not allow the introduction of chemical components and chemical precursors to fentanyl, because we're fully aware of the damage it poses to the United States youth. This is a matter of humanism. It's an act of solidarity. We are sincerely committed to continue to assist at our fullest capacity to prevent drug trafficking, namely the.
Okay. So, bottom line is, I don't think anything's changing. They're saying these things, but I'm not really hearing much on the the policy side specifically. So the proof will be in the pudding, right? And he's really praising him for having essentially an open border. That's what I'm hearing anyway. Maybe some other people will be hearing it differently. It's status quo on that, on both fronts. I think even the controlling the drugs and the precursors for the production of certain drugs, including fentanyl. So don't expect much to change until we get regime change. You know what has changed though is the reality for Taylor Swift. Poor Taylor Swift. Look at the headlines she's getting now. Where is it here? Oh, hang on. I had that queued up. There it is. Sorry, wrong one. Wrong window. You know, she's been the darling of media in her Eras tour, got all kinds of free media hype, but not now. Taylor Swift's Rio tour marred by deaths, muggings, and a dangerous heat wave. Bum, 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 bum. Picture here that says Taylor Swift fans wait for the doors of Milton Santos Olympic Stadium to open for her Eras tour concert amid a heat wave in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Saturday, a 23-year-old Taylor Swift fan died at the singer's Eras tour concert in Rio Friday night, according to a statement from the show's organizers in Brazil. And so now they're coming after Taylor in the media. Now it's dangerous to go to Taylor Swift concerts. The deaths of 2 people, muggings, and a dangerous heat wave left legions of Taylor Swift's Brazilian fans angry and disappointed in the 3-day Rio de Janeiro leg of the pop superstars Eras tour, which includes Monday night. That's tonight. Gabrielle Manganont Santana Milhomen Santos, 25. That was the fan. He was a fan who traveled all the way from the center of the country to see the Swift concert, was stabbed to death on a Copacabana beach about 3 a.m. Monday. So this person is on a beach, there for the concert, and they're connecting that to the stabbing to the concert. I don't know if that's even fair. And then the other person who died, they're wondering if it was because of the heat. Fans also reported fainting from extreme heat, being mugged, or getting caught up in a police raid. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. Like, this will be short-lived, but it just shows how media will turn on you just as easily as they'll celebrate you. In fact, they seem to rejoice and take pleasure in the tearing down after they build you up. In fact, it was the cycle went a while back with her. She was riding high in the media for a while. But then they started to turn on her because she was refusing to say or pick a side in politics. She was remaining entirely neutral, wouldn't even comment on political things. And they were putting more and more pressure on her to come out on the side of woke. And she resisted, and she started to get criticized. And then she made that music video. I think it was over in Africa. And she was accused, she was so attacked over it. Taylor Swift, I'm going to search this. Taylor Swift music video. Yeah, Taylor Swift is dreaming of a white Africa. This is the NPR report about it. You remember that the video she made? I'll show you the report here. This is just what comes to mind. And it's, yeah. This is a big oops. Taylor Swift is dreaming of a very white Africa. The video for American Taylor Swift's new song, Wildest Dreams, has been viewed more than 10 million times in the 2 days since it debuted. This is back in 2015. Man, I'm getting old. In it, we see two beautiful white people falling in love, surrounded by vast expanses of beautiful African landscapes and beautiful animals, a lion, a giraffe, a zebra. Taylor Swift is dressed as a colonial-era woman on African soil, with just a few exceptions. The cast in the video, the actors playing her boyfriend, and a movie director and his staff all appear to be white. We are shocked to think that in 2015, Taylor Swift, her record label, and her video production group would think it is okay to film a video that presents a glamorous version of the white colonial fantasy of Africa. Of course, this is not the first time that white people have romanticized colonialism. See Louis Vuitton's 2014 campaign, Ernest Hemingway's Snows of Kilimanjaro, the 1962 film Lawrence of Arabia, and of course, Karen Blixen's memoir, Out of Africa. But it still stings. Cancel culture. Here are some facts for Swift and her team. Colonialism was neither romantic nor beautiful. It was exploitive and brutal. The legacy of colonialism still lives quite loudly to this day. Scholars have argued that poor economic performance, weak property rights, and tribal tensions across the continent can be traced to colonial strategies. So can other woes. In a place full of devastation and lawlessness, diseases spread like wildfire, conflict breaks out, and dictators grab power. Dun, 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 dun. Swift's wildest dreams are a visual representation of what the Kenyan author Inyavanga Wenana writes about in his Garanta magazine essay, How to Write About Africa. In your text, treat Africa as if it were one country. It is a hot and dusty, with rolling grasslands and huge herds of animals and tall, thin people who are starving. Or it's hot and steamy with very short people who eat primates. Don't get bogged down with precise descriptions. Africa is big, 54 countries, 900 million people who are too busy starving and dying and warring and emigrating to read your book. The continent is full of deserts, jungles, highlands, savannas, and many other things, but your reader doesn't care about all that, so keep your descriptions romantic and evocative and unparticular. Why be encumbered with the African people or show them in your wildest dreams video when they're busy mutilating each other and their genitals, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so anyway, she got attacked. That's the bottom line. So what did she do? And here's some of the video. Let's bring the video up for you. Gotta let this go.
Really worried about climate change. Yeah. I mean, we need to find every way possible to reduce emissions from oil sands operations. Like carbon capture and storage.
Okay. Yeah.
We have to work together.
Okay, whatever. going to speed this up. Gives you, because I don't want copyright strike, okay? So put this here. See the style, it's very vintage. Sort of, I would say, 30s style, 20s, 1920s. So you got the idea. So that was the video. And, cliches from the past, style from the past. It's out there, but she got hammered on that. So what did she do? She caved. She caved, man. She came out woke. So as soon as she started to say woke things, all that just went away. All that criticism. The video is still out there, hasn't been removed, hasn't been canceled. Nobody's calling for Taylor Swift boycotts. It's all still there because she came out, towed the line, and got woke. So they leave her alone. They built her back up. The Eras Tour comes along. Free publicity constantly. People lining up. Huge dollars being paid for the tickets. Huge success. When the media builds you up, they can't wait to tear you down. It's sort of starting right now. She'll survive it. She's still their darling, even though they're coming for her, they're gunning for her, they're hitting her, they're hammering on her. But it'll peter out after a while, and they'll build her back up again real soon. You'll see. Once this is done, it'll come around. They have to have some negative stuff in there to make the other stuff seem even better than it really is. It's all a game. It's all a game. But unfortunately, the deaths are real. The deaths are real. Let me take another quick break. I'm just going to check and see if there are any new developments here on any of the news stories that we've been covering here tonight, and I'll bring you up to date on the other side of this.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
All right, we can update this, and this is a positive thing. Israel's cabinet has approved ceasefire deal with Hamas. This will bring a temporary halt to the war. We're now in week 6 of this conflict. And as part of this deal, about 50 hostages will be released. They have about 240 hostages still in custody, and 50 of them will be released under the deal. They're being held in the Gaza Strip, of course, and this will happen over a 4-day period. And the Israeli government says it will extend the ceasefire by an additional day for every 10 hostages that Hamas releases. The first hostages to be released are apparently going to be women and children. But Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel will resume its offensive against Hamas as soon as the ceasefire expires. It isn't clear at this point when this will take effect. So that's very positive news tonight. A step in the right direction, at least. And of course, we all know what's been going on over there. Tragedy on both sides, possibly even war crimes committed by both sides. And that, I think, is closer to the truth than most or even the vast majority of what I'm seeing online, even from people who present themselves as credible social media independent influencers, journalists, whatever they want to call themselves. I see a lot of bias and I see a lot of picking sides. And because of that, I'm seeing a whole lot of propaganda. And it is a difficult time, disappointing. I don't know. But that's the way it is on this 21st of November, 2023. I'm going to take another break. I'm going to set up a phone system, but we're doing it different tonight. I want to do an experiment with the system. I'm going to put up a different number, and I'll put it on the screen right now. We'll only take we'll see how it goes. Here's the phone number. So different phone number to call in tonight for calling. 1-321-355-7678. That's 1-321-355-7678. Let's take a little break here, and I'll be right back on the other side of this.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarmingly, some media true without checking facts first. Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
In an ocean of lies a century deep, the truth awaits. Choose not the red pill. Choose not the blue pill. For both are an illusion. Discover the power of M. The power of individuality. We are mavericks. We are the way to the light. Fear not the storm. Join our quest for truth. Truth will set you free. Maverick News. The world is watching.
New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
Okay, so that experiment already didn't work. So let's do this different. We're going to do the same thing. I'm just going to do, it's just a different phone number. Okay, so here's the phone number. On the screen. And the number is going to be That's the magic number. 1-443-961-7798. 1-443-961-7798. Me. Oh man, that was funny. I had it all planned out, and then it just kind of didn't work. Oh, you'll also need this thing. I don't know if this is going to work. I forgot about this. Yeah, you're going to need a PIN number to make this work. All right. Maybe this won't work so well. It's going to get too complicated for you guys. Tell you what, screw that. I'll go back to the old way. Already running into trouble. This is ridiculous, Rick. Don't do that to people. It's just too difficult. Okay? Just do this. Call this number, the one you always call.
Join the conversation. Call 1-833-975-3733. That's 1-833-975. Free. Speak up. Speak out. Make your voice heard. Maverick News. Fighting for freedom by defending your right to free speech. Be a Maverick. Join us.
Okay, folks, I'm just there. Hang on just a second. I think I got it. I do. All right, we're ready to rock and roll. Let me put that number up on the screen here for you. The usual number. I do that in my dog's ear all the time. Not quite like that, though. It's in a more gentle way with him. It calms him down. He's pretty high strung. He's still young. Where's that number? Hello, number. Where'd you go, number? There we are. I had it. Oh, I'm in the wrong phone. When you're here alone, trying to push all the buttons, it's hard to, there it is. Hard to find everything. 1-833-975-3733. And we have the first caller of the night. He's up. Here he is. He's the man. Hello, sir.
He's not the man.
Oh, I thought it was Leo. But it's you. Chris.
I beat him to the punch. I beat him tonight. That's better. I like this number better. Keep this number. The other one needed a PIN number when you called it.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to find a solution to this call-in system because it's so darn expensive. It really costs a lot of money to run it. And anyway, but that's my problem.
It comes up as an international number, a Florida number when you call it.
Yeah, it's a U.S.-based number, but I don't think it costs anything to call it. But anyway, we're back doing it the old-fashioned way.
I wasn't going to go in tonight, but I wanted to tell you about something that happened to me. So you know how you touched on people being scammed and stuff in the past?
With cryptocurrency or whatever?
Well, just being scammed in general, like ordering online and anything like that.
Yeah.
So a month ago, I thought I would order, I was on Marketplace and I came across this website that said Marshall's, which is the Marshall stores and winners and everything, right?
Yeah.
Okay, this is a legitimate site. So I went and I ordered this chair that folds out to a bed. I thought this would be great for my grandson when he comes to visit. So it was like $38, and of course, $54 comes out of your account, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, no big deal. And I start tracking it, and it starts off in China because it'll be there in 8 days. By the 15th day, it hasn't even got to Canada yet. Okay? So I'm watching it, right? Every once in a while, you'll get something in English that you can read. So it arrives in Canada. Then it's going to customs. Then customs is going through it, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, eventually arrives in Alberta here. Okay, that's great. Then it said it arrived in my town. So I'm going, okay, this is great. So I'm expecting a delivery, like, a courier service to deliver it, right? And I'm waiting. And nothing. Now this time we're talking about 18 days into this, all right? So I sent the company a message and I said, I haven't got it yet. They said, oh, well, check your mail. And I'm going, check. It wouldn't come in the mail, but okay, I'll go check my mail to see if there's a card. Maybe it went to some depot or something, right? Nothing. Checked all courier companies in town where they drop off. Nothing. Went to the post office again, and I gave them the tracking number. And they said, good, this is a China number. And once they come into Canada, they change over to a Canadian number for anything for the post office. So he said, you'll never get it through us. So I messaged these people back and I said, I still don't have it. And they said, oh yeah, we delivered it. Check with your neighbors. So I did. I had my neighbors check their cameras. Nothing. So I messaged them again. And I said, no, I said, this is a scam. I said, you haven't sent it to me. They sent me a notice back saying, oh, we sent you the wrong package. We sent you 3D glasses and you need to find them because we're out money. So I'm going, what? So I messaged them back again. I said, no, this is scam. And I said, I'm going to report it to the authorities if you don't send me my money back. So fine. Don't hear from them for a few days. I get hold of my bank and I reported it as fraud, and they took the whole, and they said, oh yeah, just by the way I was telling you about it, it's fraud. So I waited. Well, 3 days later, I got $52 put into my account from that company, but there's no name that comes with this company. It's got a whole bunch of zeros and it says PPS, and so they don't know where it originates from. Okay? Then what I thought that the bank had refunded me, turns out that it was actually probably came from that company again, right? Today, I went to go into my bank, and guess what? They drained my bank account right out. I have 46 cents to my name.
What?
They literally cleaned my bank account out today. So now I've had to get hold of the fraud department. I've had to get hold of the bank. I'm in tears. I'm at the end, because I'm on a pension. I don't get paid till next Wednesday. That was food money to me. That was money for me to take my grandson to a wildlife show this weekend. And they literally cleaned me out. So the fraud department said, well, it'll be a couple of days and hopefully your money will get refunded. If not, it'll be up to 10 days. And then they might want to do inquiry. But they said it originated in Hong Kong. The very first claim I put in a month ago from them came from Hong Kong, but they still don't know what company it is or who it's coming from. Can you believe that? I can't believe I fell for something like that.
Did you pay for this with giving them access to your bank account or a credit card?
Yeah, it was like a debit Visa. So what happened was when that money got returned, the bank said, okay, we're going to monitor it and it shouldn't happen again because it sounds like a legitimate company that's returned your money. But they didn't return the whole amount. So it never was legitimate. So basically they've had 4 times they've had access now to my card. So now it's finally been canceled. I have to go get a new card tomorrow. But in the meantime, I can't get into my accounts. I can't do nothing. It's just, I don't have any money left, but literally they cleaned my bank account out. And yesterday I had deposited money yesterday because I had sold something to get me by to do me till next week. And then I went and I put the cash in the bank and lo and behold. So beware, people. Beware what you order online. Honest to God, I've only ever ordered twice online. One was from Amazon, and I actually got that parcel a couple years ago, and then this time. And now I'm terrified. Well, how do I know that they don't have my banking information now? I said, do I have to close out this bank? Do I have to, like, they said, no, it should just be your card. But I mean, I'm nervous now. I mean, that's how bad it's getting for scamming. Like, you really got to be careful. Like, really, I mean, modern technology is great, Rick. I agree with you. But I don't think it's really good to be giving banking information online for anything anymore. That's how I feel. Maybe I just have bad luck, but yeah, it's been a really rough day. So I wanted to share that story just so that your viewers out there are aware that it's so easy to get scammed. And even the bank said, we are so busy with scams and
Yes, they
fraud
are.
going on.
Yeah, they are.
So it's like, and I'm hoping my bank will actually deal with it. I mean, I've been with them for 10 years. I really don't want to have to change banks. And, it's hard when you have government money coming in and stuff, right? Everything's got to be changed over. But I mean, if that's what I might have to end up doing, I don't know.
Well,
I guess just it.
It may be. I know you're concerned, obviously, and it's a terrible thing. I'm certain that they'll get you your money back because they will see exactly what's happened. They'll see that it wasn't you. They should be able to figure that out fairly easily, and because they'll see where the money went and so on. And yeah, I just don't understand. I just don't understand how they were able to access your account, because how would they ever get access to your account, even if it's like a Visa debit card? Did you give them your PIN number? A PIN number?
No. All I ever did was just order it with that number that's on the card, and it went through. And the day later, I seen that it came. They took out the difference because I thought it was American, so you're going to have that exchange, right? And that's it. And after that, they just keep they're getting access. So that's what I mean. I'm worried if my account now has actually been hacked, and that's what the bank's investigating. So I'm really hoping that I'll hear something, like they're going to work on it ASAP, because I was pretty emotional when I was talking to them. And I've had nobody to talk to all day, so I'm not venting to you, but I just wanted to tell you that story so other people can be really aware that it happens. It happens. It really does.
Well,
I didn't believe it.
Oh yeah,
but it does.
It can happen quite easily. But my experience has been like, I got sort of a few years ago credit card charge with a company, and they were overseas, but they didn't deliver on their promise, and my money just got refunded. So just by calling, because it was an American Express card, mind you, so they have extra layers of protection on there. But
right. Well, you see, and I don't even have a number to this company. Like, they never provided me, like, I don't know who I was talking to, who I was emailing with, but every time I would email, they would email me back. So, but I still, even with the email, it was like I was texting with the person. But, and I kind of started to get red flags after about the 5th day of watching this. But I thought, okay, it's coming from China, things are slow. The ports, strike fears, right? But no. It never showed up.
What goes on these days is a lot of drop shipping. Do you understand what that is?
No, I don't know what that is.
So you set up a company, right? And what you do, and there are a lot of people doing this, and all you're really doing is you're running ads for products on the internet. You're using Google ads, Facebook ads, whatever, mostly Google ads, websites sometimes, but you run ads. And you advertise all kinds of different products. When somebody places an order through you then place the order with the supplier, but not until then. And then the supplier is usually in China, and that supplier then ships the product, so that as a drop shipper, you don't have to keep any inventory. But because you're buying from a drop shipper who only actually places the order for his inventory at the time of your purchase, you have to wait a long time for stuff to arrive. A lot of that stuff is sometimes advertised at a pretty low price. They have very low markup, very slim margins that they work on because it's more of a volume thing, and they eliminate their costs, like their storage costs, inventory costs. They cut one of their shipping costs, but then each item is shipped individually. So it's these drop shippers, a lot of them that get involved in this kind of stuff. And then the consumer ends up waiting a very long time for the product. And there are some bigger companies that get involved in this. There's a company out there like I think they're called Light in the Box. They advertise a lot of products at dirt cheap prices. By the time you get it to your door, though, you're sometimes subjected to taxation and importation duties, and it can be delayed at the border, and it can be a bit of a headache. It can take weeks, many weeks for your product to arrive. It's not like it just shows up like that. Amazon's different. They're a huge company, and they usually fulfill the products within days, sometimes the next day or within a couple of days. And if it's a third-party seller, because a lot of people sell through Amazon, independent people, they still fulfill the orders for those people. So there's a higher degree of trust there, right? And Amazon kind of backs that up. So that's what's going on there. But you order from a lot of other sites. If you're not careful, you don't know what to look for, you're going to get hooked into drop shipping. And then some of these companies do advertise that there's scams. There's no question about that, because they will do things like advertise, and then they get you to place an order, and they'll get certain information. And sometimes it's in the refund where they actually execute the scam in order to take more money out of your account. Now, I can't remember exactly how that works. I'd have to look it up and refresh my memory on it. But there is a mechanism by which they do that, and it just gives them access to funds. And then when the bank goes to get it back for you, they've already kind of like disappeared into the night, into the cyberverse, right? Cyber universe. So but the saving grace in all of this is that the banks are aware. They're able to track this stuff. They will be able to tell from the digital trail, the digital money trail, that it wasn't actually you who took the money out. And so when they see that it is this thing, they should restore the funds to your account, because they will stand behind that. It's a huge expense to the banking industry. People like to hate on the banks, right? But the banks will, generally speaking, if they can trace that money and see that it isn't you, they'll give you the money back. They generally will, because it's a breach in their security in a way. So they tend to stand behind it. Now, I'd be very interested. Please let us know what happens with you, because this is a lesson to be learned for everyone. And I'd be very interested to see how the bank treats you with this. But
and it's the same bank that your wife works for, by the way. I won't say it on the air, but okay, so I've been with them for 10 years, but I'll definitely let you know how it goes. And I don't drink, and thank God I don't have any booze in the house, because I probably would have got drunk today. Oh my God, I've been so upset all day. So it's so frustrating, right? So
I can understand stress.
But I did go for a walk. It was 14 degrees out here today, so I went for a nice walk to kind of walk it off. But anyways, I'll let you get on to your next caller. I just wanted to tell you my story that was happening. I'll keep you informed, and let all your other callers know, or our Maverick family, to beware.
Thank you, Chris. And we'll check back in with you maybe tomorrow and see how things are going with that. Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Rick. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Okay. Hello, it's Matt.
It is Matt the Unseated, on the air, but without a face, on Maverick Multimedia.
How you doing tonight?
I survive every day. I know when I called, I had said I wanted to talk about what I termed the bio-digital convergence, but do you mind if I also talk a little bit about domestic terrorism and the intelligence community while I'm here?
Go for it.
Okay. So I like the way you brought up the CIA, because, the CIA's greatest weapon, in my opinion, is Hollywood, and they villainize themselves on purpose in their movies and what I find is that doing this, it prevents people from thinking about other alphabet soup organizations or potentially fraternities behind them that the CIA really actually covered for, whether it be Mossad or the Knights of Malta or the Jesuits or even Canadian intelligence, you know? So I just think that they're interesting in terms of the way that they apply their psychological warfare, so to speak, if that makes any sense. So the other thing too, so the biodigital convergence, otherwise I think the WEF uses the term singularity, but the biodigital convergence is a term that was coined by Policy Horizons, which is a creation of the Policy Research Initiative, which is a creation of the Privy Council. So I just think, you know, I'm not against like AI in and of itself, if that makes sense, but I am against the way that it is being used and forced upon the people in a way that they kind of have to keep up with the technology or, you know, that's just kind of my take on that. But what do you think? What do you think?
How is it being forced on the people?
Well, in the regard that pretty much every manual or thing we have to do has to be pretty much done online rather than us, you know, going in person with a resume in places, everything is submitting online and, you know, doing stuff like that. You're not really able to, like a lot of people can write a good resume, but be a shitty employee. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I just don't. The word "forced" is strong. I don't think that AI is being forced on people. I just think that it's technology evolving at such a rapid pace that we as human beings are not capable of keeping up. But it's up to us to not let the technology control us. It's up to us to control the technology. So we need to get involved and demand that there are checks and balances in place, whether it's legislation to ensure competition or to regulate the implementation of this kind of technology in certain areas so that it's not used in harmful ways. You know, we need to examine all of these things. And I don't think that we've adequately, you know, we're just scratching the surface on ethics and the cultural aspects of this, the socioeconomic implications. We need to really look at all of these things. And this is going to, like everything else, I think it will take us to places where it seems like we are entering areas of new ethical and philosophical questions, but in the end, it will be the same foundation that guides us. These questions come full circle over and over again as new technologies emerge, whether it's the printing press or the automobile, nuclear power, diffusion power, which appears to be, you know, right around the corner since they've you know, developed stuff like that. We have to learn to deal with it because it has implications on society. But, you know, it's not like forced. That implies that the government or some powerful entity, whether it be an individual or company, is up there forcing people to use it. The technology evolves, and because it's real and it exists, I suppose people are forced to use it simply because it exists. But I don't think that people are, or any organization is out there in some evil capacity trying to force it on people. It just is. Therefore, we have to deal with it, which brings me back full circle to my point originally, which is we have to deal with it. You can't run away from it. There's no escaping change. if there's one constant in the universe, it is exactly that. The one thing we can count on is that things will always change.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I'm not, going to run into the wilderness or suggest, doing anything like that at the moment. But the reason why I chose the specific words forced is we're moving into a day and age where you don't walk into the office, but you walk into the metaverse for your office. And that to me is what I'd call forced. And the term biodigital convergence implies a sort of synthesis between biological life and digital life. And that is forced. And it's different. Sitting in front of a computer screen is not forced, right? Using a smartphone is not forced. It's just, you can do all the things with a smartphone. By not using a smartphone, you'll just have either several other devices or other means, and things would be, much slower for yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it does raise these, really hard questions for people. And I understand what you mean by forced. Like if you get a computer chip that allows you to jack yourself into the matrix so that you have infinite knowledge, suddenly you have capabilities far beyond the average human. So how you compete for a job unless you get jacked in too, right? That forces you to do the same thing if you want to compete and participate fully in society that way. That forces you.
Yeah.
But again, that's like the reality of it, right? That's not necessarily the government sitting there saying you must, although we did see during the pandemic where they said you must get this thing or you can't do this.
Yeah.
Right? That's being forced. That's why we need to get involved. That's why we need legislation in place. That's why we need to change Section 1 of the Charter. That's why we need to be focused on that so that the government can't do an end run around our rights in the future, again, the way that they did. We just have to keep hammering on that. Unfortunately, we keep getting distracted, pulled off into other directions, and we've lost sight of that. And we're running around worrying about Taylor Swift.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I mean, like, when this whole comes down, though, like, take, for instance, like, you showed Adrian's platform on the show, right? And there was like the gold standard, for instance, right? And this gold standard is very vaguely defined, right? Like I even asked him about it myself and didn't really get a clear answer. So I'm just saying, like, if someone is hypothetically promising, currency that's tangible or backed by whatever, gold, silver, what I'm saying is, that's like an illusion in order to lead toward, just something that runs on the blockchain, like basically what I'm saying is you were talking about government implementing force on us through the jabs and then potentially even maybe digital ID. I don't know if you were going in that direction or not, but all of these are just, I want to say little baby steps toward what I termed the biodigital convergence, right? Mm-hmm. And so the thing is, it's like a gradual push and normalization through either ideology or, in this case, we're talking about technology, right? And so again, there's nothing wrong with the normalized use of technology, but there is something wrong with the use of synthesizing with it. So that's kind of where I stand. And also I'm glad that you brought up Section 1 of the Charter, because I think that that's probably a main way, like a main weapon, if you will, that is maybe not weapon, but a main way to manipulate whatever your desired outcome is if you're the government,
Yeah.
So
it allows them
we
to
just
say
need
your
to,
rights are suspended because of X emergency.
yes, exactly, right.
So,
Yeah. So, I mean, there has to be like a solid middle ground, I guess. And like you said, the only constant really is change, right? And so we always do have to adapt. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people too, even especially with the conversation I'm having, a lot of people instantly get, angry or scared, right? And so we have to adapt to the changes, not fight against them per se, but also stand our ground and keep our principles strong. And I say this in terms of, you know, I don't have anything against anybody that they just decided to take the jab, hypothetically, right? I don't have anything against anybody that decided to or didn't decide to, right? But I firmly stand by somebody who stands by their principles and not somebody who says, oh, it's just the easy thing to do. You know what I mean? Or all my friends are not doing it, so I'm not going to do it. I'm going to fight too. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so that's just kind of where I stand. But I pretty much said everything I really wanted to. I mean, unless you want to talk a little bit about the intelligence community, but that's your call.
Was there anything that was on your mind with regard to that? I mean, here's my thing, just based on what you said, and then based combined with what I talked about earlier with CSIS tonight. You know, the thing the thing that's been highlighted to me over the last month though is, and I've seen, you know, intelligence reports about this. It isn't just the CIA. It isn't just CSIS. It isn't just our government.
Yeah.
In fact, the true adversary, the true threat to us is external. It's foreign governments doing bad things to us. It's foreign governments paying off our politicians. It's foreign governments engaging sometimes in direct information warfare. It's foreign governments paying operatives here domestically to do their dirty work on the information warfare for them. It's foreign governments orchestrating campaigns to throw fuel on fires, domestic social fires, problems, to amplify those problems, as Yuri Bezmenov, the former KGB agent, warned us of in the 1980s, right? That's what they're doing. So even, you know, it isn't just that Joe Biden is incompetent. He's an actual threat, because we can see that there is a paper trail of money from China to him. So he's being influenced that way. You can see that there's a paper trail of money from China and Chinese companies to Trudeau campaigns. So you see that there's a level of compromise there, right? He's compromised. And you can see these things, but it's like the point being, we are trying to destroy ourselves as a result, when the intelligence reports showing that probably half of or more of the social media information warfare that we're being subjected to is in one way or another originating from external foreign government or entities that are trying to destroy our country, and they're getting us to do it ourselves, because we're like trying to fight shadows, don't understand where it's coming from, and they blame everything, whether it is or it isn't. It's always our government, our system is to blame. The CIA, it's always the CIA when it's probably the FSB, when it's probably the Chinese, but their operatives here turn around and say, "Oh no, it's just the CIA." Oh no, you don't have to worry about that. It's CIA. It's always the CIA. The CIA did it.
Yeah, of course. That's why I brought up Hollywood, right? Because they literally they use the CIA like a punching bag shield, right? Just like world leaders or governments are used as a punching bag or shield from whatever other XYZ front organization in front of something else, right?
I would say,
and I'd say the common thread between. Sorry, go ahead.
With regard to Hollywood, I would say that Hollywood is a powerful tool, but within Hollywood, you also have people who are sympathetic to foreign governments, sympathetic to other political ideologies. Some of them are paid, some of them are doing it voluntarily because they believe in, you know, this stuff is amplified by foreign governments who then put people into places of influence within media organizations so that those kinds of narratives are told through the media to us in order to undermine confidence and trust within our own institutions and our governments, whether it's police or even firefighters or whatever it might be, right? Can't trust them.
Of course. Yes, and it's like also too, I mean, like in general, besides one country's own government or the CIA, you know, they have other boogeymen in place sometimes. Like if you think about what is it? CrowdStrike, which was like a security firm, I think set up basically to protect the DNC, like the Democratic National Committee, right? What ended up happening was the DNC, there were like emails leaked from the DNC, and he blamed it on Russian hackers. But the reality of it was that CrowdStrike themselves like set the whole thing up, right? So, and the Atlantic Council, which is attached to that whole thing, which basically also goes toward Wexit. It's a whole different story. I don't want to get too sidetracked here. But the Atlantic Council is primarily funded by like people like Soros and the Clintons and stuff like that, right? And you know, and speaking of which, just now that I bring up the political left, is it's actually not much different in Canada, because like Evan Balgord of what is it, Anti-Hate Canada, sits on a board of this alphabet soup think tank that has to deal with counterterrorism, TSAS. You Google whatever that acronym is, you'll probably find it, and it's got a bunch of orange dots, so you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, basically all I'm getting at is that there's always a boogeyman in place, usually the CIA or one country's own government to blame. You're absolutely correct about that, and I'm glad you're bringing this up.
The other thing that complicates everything for us is that because we live in a democratic society, various political parties are in constant conflict, and that they will engage also in information warfare aimed at their political opponents. And right, so now it becomes domestic, and one side's fighting against the other, and at some point that even becomes a crime domestically. And then other foreign governments can get involved in that stuff too, because they maybe want to influence things so that the party or politician that is maybe has policies most favorable to them as a foreign government, they want that person to win, and they will amplify what the you know, the adversaries of, say, Donald Trump are doing, right?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And this is where you brought up fifth generation warfare too, right? Is like, if you take, I mean, I'd say I would say all parties in Canada are really responsible for the mass immigration, but a lot of people will point the finger at the left on that one.
Yeah.
But you know, that's why you have a lot of Chinese infiltration, for instance, right? That's why you have Huawei, and even like that's what was it, stupid agreement in like 2014 or something, FIPA or something, Foreign Investment Protection Act. So like yeah, basically it's just like an excuse for China to literally set foot into the nation and, you know, implement fifth generation warfare. And then also, if you look at, not that I'm a fan of Stephen Harper or anything, but since Stephen Harper left power and Trudeau came into power, a lot of the naval security in northern Canada has decreased significantly. And then what have you got there? You know, a lot of Russian influence in northern Canada, right? So so yeah, but I think I've pretty well said almost everything that comes off the top of my brain. Is there anything else you want to add to this conversation, Rick?
no, I think we're good for tonight, Matt. I appreciate the call. We can pick it up another night, maybe even tomorrow.
Okay, sounds perfect. I'm just gonna tell people to check out my YouTube channel, Matt the Unseated, or find me on Facebook at Matt Unseated, and they can freely ask me whatever it is they want. And now I'm going to hang up. So thanks very much for having me call in, Rick, and enjoy the rest of the show, man.
All right, thank you, sir. You have a great night. All right, let's move on. Here he is. Now he's up. Hello, sir.
Woo-wee, Ricky Bobby. What a show tonight. What a show. Chrissy, tis the season to be scammed. Everybody out there listening, be very careful. The scams are in full effect. Okay, and I get them every day myself, especially the CRA or Scotia Bank telling me they're there's a problem with my credit card, and I like playing with them when they call from their Indian call centers.
Yeah.
And I keep them on the line as long as I can, right? Because I don't deal with Scotiabank, never have, never will. So, there's a lot of scams out there. Just beware, right? I don't trust anybody this time of year when it comes down to the internet. Period.
Yeah, they're getting really good too. I get emails and sometimes they look very authentic, like they're coming from a bank or
100%.
credit card, and they're not, right? So you really have to be careful what you click on, and yeah.
Yep. As for Colonel Fuck Rogers, I can see the fire in your eyes, Rick. Hopefully you get that guy on your show so you could simply just tell him to go fuck off. Right? I know you want to. I can see it. I can see it in your eyes. I know you're gonna. You get him on the show. It's gonna be a good show because you know what? This guy here is just trying to fucking stir the pot. He's paid for by who? The Jewish community. Plain and simple.
Wow, he wants to round everybody up, arrest them all for protesting. It's like, oh my God, like how many people would you have? Talk about concentration camps? That's where that would have to go. Like they'd need to set. My God,
he needs to look in his own fucking backyard. He needs to look in his own backyard of the United States of America before he starts looking into our yard. Okay, and guys like that are there to stir up shit. Okay. It's why I don't watch, I call it Rebel Jews, not Rebel News, Rebel Jews, Ezra and those guys, because it's one-sided, obviously. Okay, they're still talking about the beheading of these babies. I still haven't seen any parents crying about their kids being beheaded. I'm sure there's a lot of kids that died on the Israeli side, okay, and elderly people. That happened. I'm not denying that it didn't fucking happen. Okay, but when I keep hearing this bullshit, okay, and I don't see any grieving parents about their kids being butchered up. Okay, I'm not buying what they're trying to sell us. So, as for Matt, the unseated, he says he's not running into the wilderness. I'll run to the wilderness bare balls right about now. And I got no qualms about it. It's to where we're at right in life. Good news, Rick, on my life. Here's a positive note for everybody out there. I like to be as positive as I can, right? In the last couple of weeks, I've been in a bad funk, really bad funk. Well, today I came into work and management hauled me in the office. So we got good news and bad news. I said, let me guess, I'm getting laid off. They said, no. Do you want to go over to another company? That's with our company, right? I said, which company? They told me the company. I said, fucking right, I do. That's where the 3D printers are, right? That's what I want to get into. So on Monday, that's where I'm headed, to the engineering department. And as many hours as I could chew. So on a good note, that's a great thing. I don't have to look for another job.
Good.
There it's all research and development. So I can't wait to go live from inside of a 3D printing facility to show you what's going on and what I was talking about. It's not only the 3D printing plastics, they're 3D printing metals.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, I'm very, very interested in this new job anyway. So that's for sure.
Cool.
You get complacent in the place for years where I'm at. And, it's not, I already know it's not going to be as laid back as it is right now of me calling into the Ricky Walker show every night or even watching the Ricky Walker show every night. Right. I'm going to be busy because I got to learn. Right. So right now I'm to the point where I'm not learning anything anymore. I'm just, things are running. They're running great.
Yeah.
Even while I'm talking to you on the phone. Right. So it's a win-win for them. It's a win-win for me, actually, at the end of the day. Because any new skills somebody could pick up is a good thing, right?
Yeah. How do they print metal? How do they do that?
I don't know. I'm going to show you. I'll do a video. I'll come on your show live and whatever. I'll show you a video on how they do it and what they're printing. Right. Yeah. So right now we do 3D whatever, right? Machining. So 3D printing, it's coming out almost better than what we can machine. I don't know what the speed times are, who's faster, I'm going to find out all of it because I'm going to be doing it,
Does that
right?
mean like
So,
does it come out as like do they superheat it so that it comes out as like a liquid and then it solidifies, or is it a chemical process? Like how
one,
do they extrude it?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Like 98% of the material in this new place is all aluminum, right? So they're 3D printing the aluminum. And what that does is, okay, I know it cuts down on time because the build tool could take up to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months, right? Depending on the size of the tool. Where, let's say you just want a prototype for the new vehicle that's coming out or whatever. So you make the prototype and 3D print it. And if they like what they like, then they'll go cut it in aluminum, okay, as a prototype, and then replicate it into steel.
I see.
Right, and then start full production.
Right.
So they could put a whole car together, 3D printing, put a whole car together, the body frame of a whole car, so they know what it looks like before they even go into production of anything. Right, and that's the future of things.
That,
like I said, my job as a machine,
that really reduces development costs. Huge.
It does. Yeah. It does, right? And there's only 2 shops in southwestern Ontario that are doing this, right? And this is one of them. There's about 100 people that work there, so it's going to be interesting to see, interesting to learn new things, right? So, and that's the future. Like I said, I'm a dying breed.
Yeah.
As a machinist, CNC, as you know, as technical as it looks.
Yeah.
In a blink of an eye, robots could come in and do our shit.
That's right.
Right. So we're already computerized. It's just a matter of getting robotics to do the tool changes and everything else, right? You know, so we're a dying breed. So
and the 3D printing is displacing the CNC stuff. So the days
100%.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah, when I started back in the day, they were called duplicators. Okay, and they had a wooden model that was made out of wooden bondle. Okay, and they had a tracer on the duplicator that sent all the information after it was done tracing to a big CPU that was massive, okay? And it ran out tickets. This is how the computers operated. He took the ticket over to the machine, put the ticket in, and then it replicated what was on the ticket to steal. It was wild. And then in blink of an eye, it turned into CNC, right? All computer numerical controls. And that changed overnight. So I do see in the industry right now the 3D printing's the way to go. That if you got a job in 3D printing or robotics technician, anything computer technicians, okay, those jobs will not be obsolete. You'll have a job for a long time. You take a job as a plumber, electrician, trades, you'll have a job for a long time. Right? So I just got to change the shuffle. That's all, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Just have to adapt. Simple as that. And plumbers, I mean, AI can come into effect, I guess, but at the end of the day, somebody still needs to crawl under your sink with a wrench and get to work on those pipes. So,
right, or lift the toilet and place it in, right? Jobs like that will never go obsolete. So, you know, I don't care what they say about AI. You're not going to have AI come in and it's a plumber. I don't see it. They're not that far ahead yet.
Not yet. Eventually, maybe robots.
Not
but
yet.
We're a ways away from that.
Yeah,
decades.
We're 100 years away from all that shit.
Yeah.
I'm just worried about getting through the next 10 years. I could care less about the next 100 after, right?
Yeah, and with the rate of acceleration, that's all any of us can really do is try to get through a decade at a time, I think. So
I think so too, you know, so on the positive note, keep positive, people, and positive things will happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just keep positive. You know, for every negative I try and find 10 positives. So my wife's happy, my kids are happy, my son's working at the mission, he's a cook, just doing his co-op, and they hired him full time.
Oh,
right. So
good.
And then my other daughter, who's really not doing much, she went in there and they hired her full time too in the kitchen at the mission. So they're both doing good, right? So,
well, good for them.
Which is good. I think so, yeah.
Awesome.
You know, that's what they want to do. That's what they want to do. You got passion for it, do it.
All right.
You'll never go hungry. That's a fact.
That's right.
Cooks and butchers. If you're a cook or a butcher, Johnny, if you're a cook or a butcher and you're listening to this, you'll never go hungry.
All right. Well, I'm glad things are looking up a little bit more for you there, Leo, and I appreciate the call.
Right. And everybody out there on Rumble, if you see the reason why guys like Paul, me, there's a bunch of us, and we have pink around our names, that's because we're paid members monthly, and it's only like $5 a month to become a member on Rick's show. Okay? It's only $5 a month. Take it up. When you go in to pay like you would a rent, it asks you if you want to become a member. Become a member. It's only $5 a month, and it helps Rick out. Everything adds up.
Thank you.
If he's got 300 people watching, if he gets 300 members, now Rick's got a side hustle that, what's 5 times 3, $1,800 a month. It's not that big of a hustle, but it gets them through.
I appreciate the plug there, sir.
Okay, guys, have a good night.
All right, take care. All right, let's go on to our next caller. Hello, how are you tonight?
All right, Rick, how you doing?
I'm great, Choosy. How are you?
Well, I'm hanging in there, making a cup of hot chocolate at the moment.
Awesome.
Yeah. Things could be worse, and things could be better, certainly.
Yeah.
Been a long night already for you, by the sounds of it also.
No, things are pretty good here tonight, I think, overall. So
I called into Megan Fox the other day. I don't know, maybe it was yesterday. I lose track. But I told her what the solution is, and she was like, "Oh, well, I have no concept what a peaceful revolution would look like." And then she was like, hung up. Before I could explain any further. But then when I rewatched it, she did, concede that it's a valid consideration. So I wasn't all that insulted. But, overall, Rick, been taking the temperature of the protest chats, and the people are smarter today than they were yesterday, but only half as smart as tomorrow. And that's a good trend. And in the legal chats and the alternative media chats, I've noticed the trend. And like I can go in there and flip the table like a card table, no problem. And that's good because, that's indicative that the consciousness is there for the change. It's just a matter of whether we're going to get it or whether, something else worse is going to happen. I'm not thrilled about all this, dancing through the internet stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You guys talked about that earlier. And I understand people might want to fly around and stuff, but then again, it's going to get like Batman pretty quick with the way people are. Yeah. And, I would be content to go around on my electric bicycle with some actual fresh air and weather that's not weaponized, and we could go from there. And it's not like it's a mystery. It really bothers me when people who I think are my allies, just casually come out with the bigotry. That really hurts my feelings, and it's not anything new. I encounter it all the time, so I got to let it roll off because I do love people, and I don't want to see them be miserable. And that's, that, I just wanted to say that. I'm proud of the way that you stood up to that guy Bruce on Strange Bedfellows the other night, and I want to give you an attaboy for that.
Thank you.
I hope, that you never abdicate your self-proclaimed and entitled editor-in-chief of the World Status. All right, because that's what's indicated right now. We need to own that status, because the deception is that they're self-proclaimed, entitled, absolute authority and immunity is a hoax, and it's the greatest hoax in history, and it's about to end. Almost 1,000 years of it is enough already. All right. So nobody should be confused about who it is. All right. And the foreign interference thing. All right. And what you said about the money passing hands between the minions is, yeah, how they do it between their different organizations. And that's how they're washing the money and the influence. All right. So we're not confused. We're not powerless. I think it's been a little while since we spoke. There's this guy, Pascal, has like a French last name. He's on Dr. Drew last week, and everybody should watch that interview to the end, where he says supra siempre, which means always above in Latin. And it's not just the Space Force motto. It's a metaphor for, justice. All right. And according to this guy, there are benevolent forces that are gathering data and getting ready to pull up a dragnet. So I think we all need to take that under firm consideration and have some hope. And it also fits in with what happened to the Guidestones, what he said, because that looked like an act of God or the Space Force to me, and not what the FBI forensics presented to us didn't really act according to the photographs and whatnot and the video. So it's all very interesting, Rick, and it's coming down to the wire. We're either going to come through to the cool table at the after party, or it's going to be something else worse. All right. So let's keep our expectations and intentions high, even though, they say don't have too great expectations and you won't have resentments. That doesn't apply now. This is like a time of the all or nothing rule here. So have expectations and raise our intentions high so that we account for trajectory and we don't let up. I'm a badger down here. You want to talk about foreign interference? I'm not letting up. And after we're done with this, there won't be any more parental alienation for hire out there. Those people are going to be gone one way or the other. All right. So no one has to get hurt for peace. And we're going to do this right. And it's going to be a world that people didn't even imagine was possible. And we are going to make it happen. It's happening all around us. Each day, people are smartening up. All right?
Okay, sir. Thank you. Those are inspiring words.
Well, if I'm here all alone, Rick. I have to do my own affirmations, and sometimes I have to entertain myself. I posted a short today impersonating the Black Pope. And had a good giggle at myself. All right? We do what we do. All right, buddy?
All right,
Much
thank
love, no fear. Love the whole community, and we're going to get through this, surprisingly. All right?
Okay.
Good night.
Thank you, Choose. Appreciate it. Great call. Thank you. And with that, I'm going to pull the phone lines offline and wrap that up. Thank you guys very much for joining me here tonight and for hanging out together. It's been a great show overall, I think. So I appreciate it very much. Just a reminder, you can support the show by donating at maverickdonations.com or at freedomreporters.com. That'll help pay for the phone bill and cover the other expenses here. Thank you so much, everybody, for the support you've shown. Please like, share, subscribe. You know the drill. Hit the notification bell on YouTube, wherever you might be watching. If you haven't done it yet, please consider subscribing over on Rumble. We need as many people over there as we can get. That's our growing platform. That's the most important one for us. And our website is always there as well at mavericknews.ca. I will catch all of it back here tomorrow night. Same bat time, same bat station. Just like Choosy said, before you know it, it's going to be like Batman out there. Yeah, the future. Like it or not, it's coming straight on at us. I'll see you in the future, 24 hours from now. Actually, less than that. Tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the flip side.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.